Good afternoon. I have two questions. My first question is, my niece turned 2 years old this October, and she still cannot sit up on her own. There seem to be some changes. The diagnosis suggests that it's cerebral palsy.
She lacks strength. She is very weak.
Yes, what else should we do?
She needs to spend more time in nature. She needs more movement in nature. For example, take her outside in a stroller and move her legs and arms. So do daily warm-ups in nature, specifically in nature, because she lacks the energy of nature. You can also place the stroller near deciduous trees, any trees such as poplar or maple, oak and so on, wherever she feels most comfortable. I think she will like the poplar tree. The stroller should be placed next to the tree, with the child's feet toward the tree and head away from it. So the stroller should be next to the tree. The child should spend about an hour and 20 minutes near the tree 3 times a week. This will have an effect, especially in summer. You can lean the child directly against the tree. This will stimulate her body, and she will develop. Cerebral palsy means there is severe tension in the body, but she doesn't have tension. On the contrary, she lacks activity. Her body is weakened. Her body is weakened, so it needs to be stimulated. This is only possible with the help of nature, the energy of nature.
There's one more thing I wanted to ask.
I don't see any serious illness other than weakness. This weakness can be addressed through the forces of nature. Movement in nature can eliminate this weakness.
I see. They have now prescribed some very serious injections for her.
This is pointless. No injections are needed. You need to activate her body. Simply turn it on, so to speak. It is switched off.
Only in this way, right?
Trees can help. Simply place her next to a tree. This will have a tremendous impact on this child. In 3 months, the body will come alive if she spends an hour and a half near a tree 2 or 3 times a week.
Thank you very much.
The tree should be thick, about this wide.
And my second question, if I may. I've known a man for about a year now. We just talk. His family has been living in another country for a long time. It's been about a year now.
What do you mean by family? Does he have a wife?
Yes, but his wife has been seeing another man for a year now. And I've already tried every way possible not to start any relationship. But this man is somehow always around. I'm almost ready to quit my job. I have a small child, and I just don't know what to do.
He is bound to his wife no matter what she does. If you are building a relationship with him right now, it cannot stand on solid ground because God has not separated him from his wife, and he is still bound to her.
So it turns out he must by all means.
You are telling yourself this because fate is testing you, not him. Let him resolve the situation with his family first, and then with you. You are currently going through a difficult period in your personal life.
When will it end?
It started about a year ago and will last around a year and a half total. You probably met him around that time.
Thank you very much. Should I avoid communicating with him altogether then? Not to communicate with him at all?
Well, you can simply wait, but you need to set a condition. Communication can take many forms. Simply put, if you are in close contact with him, that is not acceptable right now. Next question.
Good afternoon. I have a newborn child. He is 3 months old. And the problem is, the child cries all the time and is not having bowel movements.
He is very tense. He needs to be kept in warm water for 40 minutes every evening. But not hot water, warm water. Full body massage should be done frequently, perhaps for an hour a day. You need to massage the back of the head, this occipital area. The tension is located right here.
Thank you.
Sir, go ahead and ask your question.
Good evening, Dr. Torsunov. I would like to say a huge thank you for coming and for the knowledge that you share. It has helped me personally a great deal, and many good things have happened. My question is this. For about 8 months, everything was going well. I kept to my daily routine, my diet was fine, and I prayed often. And about a month ago, my wife left, and I fell apart. And it's very hard to go back to the way things were.
But you also started praying because she was already set up that way. As I understand it, this situation didn't arise in 5 seconds.
I started praying because of problems at work.
Your wife's difficult period started about 3 months ago. When did she leave?
A month ago, yes. It was about 2 to 3 months ago that all of this started for us. With work, with my problems, questions.
But that period was really predetermined by your fate. That means it is a very clearly defined period.
A very good period.
No, this is a difficult period and it must be overcome. And as for your wife, right now at this moment you are keeping the situation under control through prayer. That means that your wife cannot do anything, she cannot leave. In other words, she has physically left, but fate is not on her side in this action. She does not have the strength to leave. If you yourself don't decide to leave her, she will come back, or you will bring her back.
It is very hard for me to pray. I have another question regarding prayer, regarding my wife. The more I manage to set myself up and the more I pray, the easier it becomes for me, and I no longer feel like bringing her back.
The fact that you don't want her back is wrong. That's probably a trap. That's why I'm saying that only you can leave her, not the other way around. And if you do that, things will get really rough in your life. A very beautiful girl will appear who will charm you. It seems she is already appearing. And then she will leave you cruelly.
Thank you. And regarding this breakdown, how do I get back to my previous routine? I have bad habits, and I can't get rid of them.
You need to understand that you are tense. Bad habits mean that a person is tense. You are artificially relieving your tension through these habits. But you cannot get rid of the tension in 5 seconds. You need to completely change your entire life, and after some time it will start to fade. Right now, even more tension has been added because of the situation you are in. When this tension starts to ease, then the bad habits will go away on their own. People don't need them at all. Not a single person needs them. A person does this as simply an artificial way to relieve tension. Moreover, this tension is not actually relieved. It simply feels less noticeable. It's like self-deception, but without it, a person can simply suffer greatly. For instance, if you endure this right now, in about 3 weeks you will develop a very intense mental tension that you will not be able to control. You will simply be going out of your mind. You just need to understand that everything has its time. The time will come and you will get rid of your bad habits 100%. The most important thing is not to worry about it. Keep working on yourself. Think about what you can do, not about what you cannot. Otherwise, you will have worries arising in your head.
Maybe it's because somewhere, in some sense, I started to feel proud of myself for doing so well. You know, in terms of keeping things steady.
All people become proud of themselves as soon as their life improves even a little. Every single one of them. And so do I. And God gives me a knock on the head for that too. It's all fine. So this is a normal part of life. There's nothing you can do about it. If you have noticed pride in my lectures, that I say something proudly, then that is 100% true. And it is a very dangerous and very difficult thing, which is very hard to overcome. And every person has it. Don't think that anyone is free of it. There's a woman over there raising her hand up high. You, yes. Yes, please pass the microphone. I'm just looking to see who needs it most.
Good evening.
Please take your seat. All right.
I've only been listening to your lectures recently, literally for just 2 days.
2 days?
Yes.
Then you won't be able to take my advice because you don't know me.
Honestly, this is the first lecture I've listened to with such admiration. Before, I also used to listen.
I have warned you, but you may ask your question.
All right, I'll ask my question. I sometimes, or even often, behave excessively aggressively toward my husband.
Well, that's normal. You expect happiness from him, but he doesn't give it to you.
Well, actually, yes. So what should I do?
Keep living. Well, the expectation itself cannot be removed from the heart because a person cannot live without happiness. But to shift one's focus to God and to more sublime values, or to start giving happiness to others, this requires very great strength within the soul. Therefore, the only thing you can do right now is to apologize to him. When you have behaved badly, apologize, even if you believe you are in the right. That is something you can do. But that is the only thing you can do right now because everything that happens in this world happens from human powerlessness. There is no strength, no knowledge, no ability. That is why it happens. But when you apologize, you are also asking God for forgiveness in this way. Now I have a question for you. Did my answer satisfy you?
Yes.
You are a very intelligent person. It is rare for a person who has only been listening to lectures for 2 days to be able to absorb such profound things.
Thank you.
You have a good husband. He's a very kind person.
Yes.
You have become very attached to him, fallen deeply in love with him. When a person becomes attached to someone, they always want more and more from them. It never ends. And you simply need to understand that human desires are endless, and a woman's sensitivity grows in proportion to the strength of those desires. That means that since he is such a good person, you have very high expectations of him, and these expectations lead to irritation and the storm of emotions you send his way, which disappoints him in you. Therefore, you need to apologize and always remind him that you treat him very well, that you love him, and so on.
Thank you very much.
There's a woman in the back row. She's having a really hard time right now. I need to talk to her. They will give you the microphone. Please have a seat.
Thank you so much for your work and your dedication. Otherwise, I would have simply gone crazy. It's been a period of time during which I've been going through my own drama. This summer, my husband cheated on me. He's a tenor. He works on cruise ships.
It is unfavorable when a person performs in front of an audience. I have many examples of this myself. Even strong personalities break down because of fans, both male and female. And it is incredibly hard for a person not to cheat and not to fall apart. It's just incredibly hard.
He returned from the cruise, but I found out about the affair, and he went back to that girl on the ship, from where he sent us a message saying he would never return to the family and blocked my access to the finances. I was forced to file for child support. Listening to your lectures, I understand that I want to save my family, that I am ready to forgive, that I am ready to work on myself. I understand why all of this is happening to me, but I would like to ask, am I right in wanting to save my family, while at the same time filing for child support in order to protect myself and my child?
Yes, filing for child support is the right thing to do, and so is trying to save the family. The chances of saving your marriage are very low, given your fate.
But the chance exists, right? That means the possibility is there.
I cannot discourage you from your noble endeavor. You must work hard and try to bring him back. If you succeed, it will be a miracle. But this man is not worthy of you. His intelligence is very weak. Your intelligence is very strong. You will grow greatly as a person right now, considering the very act of trying to win him back. Keep in mind that if he suddenly comes back for a while, well, don't think that he has come back. That means that for him to come back, he needs to change his way of thinking. Until he changes his way of thinking, he won't be able to live without the lifestyle he is currently leading. He won't be able to stay with this girl either. That's impossible. He will be tossed and shaken around by life for a while. If that's what you need, then fight for him. Take care of him.
And if I give up trying to win him back, will I pay the price for not trying to get him back?
You will. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Therefore, you have no choice, but you must set deadlines for yourself. I think 1 year is a reasonable amount of time for you to fight for your family. God will be pleased with you.
Thank you very much.
Remember, a person's life depends on the strength of their intelligence. Therefore, a person must always develop their intelligence. Fate may influence us in any way it wants, but it is the power of intelligence that truly delivers results. Victory always depends on the strength of one's intelligence. You are a reasonable person, he is not. But he can also develop his intelligence and become stronger. It is possible, and then a miracle will happen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for growing and developing. I'll keep listening to the lectures. There's another young woman nearby. I'd like to speak with her.
Good evening.
You were crying a lot the day before yesterday, weren't you?
Yes.
Why?
These things happen. I have a situation. I have a family. Me and my husband. We have a small child. I know all my mistakes. I've realized that at least, but for now...
She's afraid I'm going to scold her.
No, I'm not afraid. Go ahead and scold me.
No?
There's probably a reason for it.
Good job, good job. Everything is fine.
You know, my husband and I have a 10-year age difference. He is 10 years younger than me. We were together for almost 6 years. He left 4 months ago. He left, accusing me of holding him back from growing, of killing the man in him. It's just that when we met, I already had a profession and was financially stable.
No, that's not the point. When a woman begins to live with a man, she must give him the space to live his own life. A woman's psyche is by nature very strong and resilient. If a woman does not adapt her nature to her husband, he will weaken, because the male psyche is by nature weaker than the female psyche. If a woman starts treating him in such a strong-willed manner, especially if he is much younger, the man, he is not yet developed, he is weak on his own.
I already understand that.
Then he completely loses himself. He can't find his bearings, he can't make decisions. That means that he simply loses his strength. And a woman does this because she wants things to happen faster. That means that she wants him to become better, but one cannot become better right away. A man needs a long time to develop and become better. A woman must first accept a man for who he is, his character, and only then gradually help him grow. But if she immediately demands things this way, choosing a harsh style in her relationship with him, he simply loses his strength.
I tried to help him. He perceives this as material assistance, but I had no desire to tie him to me financially. I just wanted to give him the opportunity to try something different in life, to start somewhere. When we met, he was just working as a taxi driver, and we both understood that it had no future. And I asked, "What do you like?" He said, "I would like to try myself as a massage therapist." But I understood that we were already living together.
That is the other side of the coin. That means that you also need to be strict with a man and encourage him to be active without indulging his weaknesses. That means that you also cannot let him become too relaxed. So on one hand, you shouldn't suppress him, and on the other hand, you shouldn't let him get too comfortable. You see, it's not so simple. So if you indulge him and say, "Come on, I'll give you money," and you just try working here and there. You see, that means that it is very beneficial for a man when fate makes things hard for him, and a woman should, in a way, help him along with that a little. Perhaps don't give him money so that fate can put him through his paces, because it is a great blessing for a man when fate makes him struggle, a very great blessing indeed. Don't do that. This is very dangerous, playing the role of a mommy. So if a man hears a phrase like, "Go ahead, live off my money and look for a job," what will happen to him right away, to the man? That's the end. There will be no job searching because it's artificial. That means that when fate puts pressure on a man, he must rise to the challenge. You must never allow a man to relax in a moment of tension. You are essentially ruining him by doing that.
But you see, before our child was born, over 4 years, he changed 8 jobs in those 4 years. And I never stopped him anywhere. But he couldn't stay anywhere.
That's just how he is. That's his level of development.
Well, there he didn't like his boss.
There are 3 stages of a man's development. The first stage is a couch potato, the second is a workaholic, and the third is a real man. He is at the couch potato stage. Then there's the workaholic. He can't sit at home, he needs to be working constantly. He's never home and his wife suffers. Who has a husband like that? Raise your hand. That's good. You see, that's already the second stage. And who has a husband in the first stage, meaning he doesn't want to do anything, he's lazy, can't hold down a job, brings in little money, always driven by emotions. So either you are being too harsh if the man is at the first stage, either you are being too harsh with him or too soft. So you need to develop and motivate him.
He tells me that I'm a mommy, that I'm overly caring.
Well, I was probably wrong about that. You shouldn't behave like that. It's dangerous.
You see, he left, and it seems to me he still cannot forgive me. He can't forgive me for being too overly caring.
He hasn't gone anywhere. He is very strongly attached to you.
He loves his daughter very much, very much. He's already coming around once every 4 months,
He is torn, searching right now, and he will keep coming back.
But he stayed with us from Saturday to Sunday. And yesterday when he was leaving in the evening, he said, "Well, I'll stay for another half hour, then I'll go."
Yes, he will come back. He will come back.
Just help me, please.
Stop being poison to your husband. Give him the opportunity to grow. A mother who spoils her child, her boy, is a venomous snake who destroys his life. If he's not working, you need to give him a nudge to get him to work. Let him do something.
He renovated the apartment.
Kick him out. Go get a job. Don't give him money.
That's exactly what he wants now.
Wonderful. He has already run away from you himself. Do you see what you've done to him? He can't bring himself to leave you, but he ran away because he sees that he's simply losing himself, and that's all there is to it. Well, that's something. He took paternity leave in your place.
I heard you, thank you. Tell me, when he comes back, as you said, what should I do?
Become strong. You need to become strong. Not harsh, but strong. Kindly say, "Go to work, my dear. We'll eat on your money. Whatever you earn, that's what we'll eat."
But he is really trying hard right now. He works from morning until almost the next morning.
That's great. Excellent.
And help me. Give me some guidance. So I just need to remain a weak woman and hand over control to him? and let him make the decisions.
Yes, of course, of course.
He won't be able to become a man on his own. I am too strong for him.
Everything is fine. Nothing is broken between you two. He is very passionate about the relationship right now and wants to come back. You are a good and kind person. It's hard to leave you.
It just seemed to me that he has another woman. That's just how it seemed to me.
A woman appeared. Even if that's the case, it's not a serious relationship. It's nothing serious. God is keeping you together. Don't pay attention to it. This is all nonsense. He hasn't gone anywhere. You are bound to him. He won't be able to leave. He will keep coming back again and again until he stays for good. Your difficult period will end in a month and a half.
Thank God. May I ask one more question? Forgive my boldness. You know, I am an artistic person, and I want something of my own. I enjoy making crafts.
What do you do? What is your job?
I'm a hairdresser.
Well, then keep doing that.
I would like to open my own workshop, perhaps focused on some decorative elements. I really love it.
You can open it on the side.
So just do it for the joy of it.
It's just unclear when it will start bringing in money. You have organizational skills.
Can I try, right?
What does your father do?
Father? He worked at a factory his whole life, but he is a very responsible person.
Well, those are simply organizational skills. It's risky to bet on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now let's hear from you, the young lady in the front row.
Hello. Thank you for your attention. My parents have been together for 20 years and have been married in the church for 10 years. And the situation that developed is, my mom for a long time has been...
She is very tense, she is sick, it is an illness.
Yes, I know. And on top of that, she was even cheating on Dad before they got married. That means these were inappropriate relationships. She had an affair once every 3 years. So, recently she started that affair again and...
Your father is a very strong man, resilient.
Yes, resilient.
A strong person.
For the most part, he stays in the family for my sake. I understand that the situation in the family right now is far from a perfect family.
Because it's the wrong way to live. All people who live simply for money, for self-improvement, for their children, they all end up destroying their families. It is impossible to preserve a family this way. When a person's values in life are weak and undeveloped, it wears them down, they grow tired of it all, and that's it. That means that he is in a state of depression, and he needs to change his life goals.
My father wants to file for divorce, and I understand that if he does go through with the divorce...
Yes, he will file for divorce.
He will leave her, and accordingly, I will be faced with the choice of who to stay with.
Will you stay with your mother?
I won't stay with my mom. I'll stay on my dad's side.
Will you leave with your father?
Yes, I will go with Dad.
Yes, that is what you need to do.
I understand if she ends up alone, then...
That's none of your business.
There's no telling how this will turn out for her.
That's none of your business. You cannot stop the ocean. There are two options. Either you will degrade along with her and end up with a mental disorder, or you will understand that you can only help her through prayer. And also help your father. Only your father can hold back her bad fate. You won't be able to. You don't have the strength for that. I believe that a person should only take on a burden that matches their own capabilities. I have one acquaintance who married a woman with a disability. He is a very strong person. I told him that he wouldn't be able to handle this burden. He is my friend, I told him honestly. They stopped communicating with me for a while altogether, and our relationship was damaged. Then I apologized for those words, and our relationship was restored. 10 years passed after that. He abandoned her cruelly and degraded himself in the process. The man lost himself, even though he was a very developed person. Don't take on a burden heavier than you can carry.
I understand, but...
I understand what you're talking about. Your conscience is troubling you. You see, there are two ways to act. One method is called interaction. It is more powerful. And the second method is external action. People often perceive external action as the primary one. Living with a person is an external action. Praying for them is an internal one. I'm not saying that women should now abandon their husbands and pray for them. Some people thought so. That is why I made that comment. I'm saying that sometimes it happens that children cannot help their parents, and prayer is simply more powerful. This is a more powerful action than simply being nearby. Sometimes people live side by side, and they cannot do anything for each other. They can't come to an agreement. But if they had prayed for each other, the effect would have been stronger than simply spending their whole lives arguing. You need to understand that your conscience is now telling you, give your life for your mother's sake. So do it, but do it the right way. No one is forcing you to abandon your mother. But you need to choose the right distance from her. If a person lives a life of degradation, they destroy everyone around them because powerful spirits influence them and also destroy those who are nearby. There was one girl at the festival. There was a situation in her life. She decided to help her friend overcome a mental illness. And the spirit that was residing in her friend entered her, and she also became afflicted with a mental illness. Well, she recovered later, but I'm just using it as an example. Don't take on more than you can carry. And when people are in a state of degradation, they are influenced by spirits. When they fight, drink heavily, cheat constantly, and have no self-control whatsoever. That means that you can even live together, but at a distance. You shouldn't get too deeply involved in the relationship, otherwise a person degrades and loses themselves. Now let's hear from the woman behind you.
Dr. Torsunov, thank you so much for your knowledge.
Are you a teacher by any chance?
I work as a lab technician at a company.
Does everyone come to you for advice?
Well, it happens. We have a young team there, and I'm kind of the elder among them.
It's in your nature to share knowledge with people.
I find it pleasant, especially when the knowledge is correct. Especially to have something to rely on.
Go ahead and ask.
I have a question. My husband and I have been together for 4 years. He is a good person in a way. But the thing is, when he gets angry, he loses control of himself and says very hurtful things.
Raise your hand if your husband loses control of himself when he's angry. Yes, a lot of people. Now raise your hand, ladies. Which of you sometimes cannot hold back your emotions and loses control of yourself, crying, throwing tantrums? Half the whole raised their hands. That was just for you to know.
Good, thank you. And not only he insults me, but last time he even cursed me.
Oh, don't pay any attention to that. It's not a curse. If a husband says, damn you to hell, he's simply trying to add weight to his words in that way. It doesn't work at all. This curse doesn't work at all. Don't pay any attention to it. It's not a curse at all. It's just nonsense.
Well, yes, that's true. But because of all this, I just can't seem to love him. Nothing works out for me.
Raise your hand if you can truly love someone close to you. Raise your hand. 4 people in the hall, 5, 6. Can anyone truly love their close person? Can you love 20 people in the hall? The rest cannot. Do you know why? Those who raise their hands just don't know yet that they can't either. They simply use each other for pleasure and think that this is love. To love a person means to receive the grace of God. That means that I take care of a person and wait for gratitude from their heart. When I see the gratitude of their heart, I will also see the purity of their character alongside that gratitude. And from that moment, a drop of love enters my heart. Then I continue to take care of them. But caring doesn't mean just indulging their desires. Discipline and strictness are also necessary. There are 2 sides to caring, discipline and care. I take care of a person, and if they become grateful, then I see their purity. When your husband becomes grateful, you will see that he is a very faithful person, very faithful indeed.
Yes, that's right.
Not just, yes, that's right, but you better say, wow, incredible, he is such a faithful person. That is what love means. Not just, yes, that's right, but yes, he is a truly faithful person. Love means seeing this quality very clearly and deeply. So if you care for him wholeheartedly and help him and he becomes truly grateful, you will see his faithfulness. And he is a very sincere person. So what is your answer? Sincerely.
How long does one need to put up with these insults? Should I even put up with them at all? I don't know.
You don't need to put up with them. If he starts insulting you, stop talking to him for 2 weeks.
I didn't speak to him for a month.
Great, excellent.
Then I started listening to your lectures.
And you started talking to him again, right?
And he said that he would no longer call me names.
Great.
Should I continue doing this?
Yes. You see, she needs to be told, well done. Everything will be fine.
I'm not sure if this is my man.
He is your man.
So it turns out that I have to be the one to raise him, so to speak.
A woman always raises her husband. Every woman shapes her husband. It is essential to speak kind words to women and comfort them. If the husband doesn't do it, then someone else needs to. helping her recover because a woman's mind sometimes goes so dark that she no longer knows how to go on with her life. And someone just needs to encourage her, and she will perk up and move forward. Because a woman's intelligence is pure but weak. And that is why she needs support, emotional support, reassurance that everything is going to be all right. You have a very good husband, and you are a good wife. You are currently going through a difficult period in your personal life. There is a feeling of emptiness and despair. You want to run away from him. This is how time works. This is the topic of today's lecture. One must always endure the influence of time, otherwise it will destroy your life. It's time to start the lecture. I am glad to see all of you. There are so many of you. You are all very kind and good people. Things will keep improving here. The only thing you need to do is learn to respect your elders. Respect your elders. These people are just the way they are. Respect them. And even if you show respect to those sitting in this hall, you will be able to strengthen your country. It will grow stronger through respect for elders. That is the only thing that needs to be done. This is very important for you. Criticize your elders and each other less and show more respect. Since people are highly sensitive, they tend to be critical. You need to learn not to criticize, but to respect and be patient with people, especially your elders. And then the strengthening will begin, and the nation will start to grow stronger. This is very important to know. All these demonstrations and protests may be well and good, but they do not help develop the country. Respect and patience will help. You can express your own opinion, that is not a problem, it is normal. But if there is no respect, everything falls apart, everything falls apart. It is important to understand this. This is a serious topic for discussion. But I won't talk about that right now because it is also a very painful topic. I just reminded you of this. Every time I come here, I will remind you of it. Therefore, when a person respects their elders, they develop as an individual in society because a person's strength in terms of status and position in society depends on respect for those who are above them. This respect creates an opportunity for higher-ups to rely on this person and give them serious responsibilities in terms of leading people and so on. Because there must always be a clear hierarchy in society, and 100% of the time those in senior positions will not be perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. These mistakes also depend on the mistakes of the people. So if people have a certain fate, God chooses exactly such a person to be the elder. Or such people. This could be a factory director and so on. Parents are also given to a person according to their fate. Such elders may not always be the most pleasant, but they are what your fate has given you. If we accept fate and show respect, it is clear that one need not accept a person's shortcomings, but still respect them as an elder. In that case, by accepting your fate, you become stronger than fate itself. But if you rebel and show no respect, then you are not accepting your fate. Refusing to accept one's fate destroys a person's life. Their life goes off the rails. And if all the residents of a country don't accept their leaders, the entire country goes off the rails. You need to accept your elders, your leaders, and pray for them. And God will punish them for their shortcomings. They will be taught and improved as a result. This is the approach one must take. But if we do not accept, we destroy life. Everything falls apart completely. Wars begin and so on, a terrible situation. When children do not accept their parents, a war begins in the family, and it never ends. So what is fate? Fate is when our past actions and desires invariably and always influence us. Fate itself is comprehensible to those who see their life more deeply and truly know it. But this is not easy for a person to do, because a person grows and develops. But our abilities are limited. We do not know, we do not remember our past lives. This is one of the limitations. We have serious difficulties in perceiving our own future. Although one can sense the future and the past as well. All these difficulties indicate that we are not very developed, you see. We become very deeply immersed in the present-day concerns that are, so to speak, connected to us and our lives right now, because we don't know that something could be more valuable than this. For example, a person learns to love other people, to care for them, tries to understand how to live right, then this knowledge stays with them forever. But if a person invests heavily in making everything good right now, their family, their home, none of that will last forever. That means that all of this will pass away, and nothing will remain at all. You see? I once witnessed a woman pass away, and a couple of weeks later her children started throwing all her old furniture out of the 9th floor window. And then her photographs started flying down after the furniture like rain falling. She had been collecting all of it, thinking it was important, but it only seemed important to her. That's how we live. Which of you holds on to old values and possessions? Perhaps only those who deeply respect their relatives. But mostly old things get thrown away, and something new is put in their places. And all the things people lived for, all those possessions fade into oblivion. But a person's character stays with them forever. This is what I'm talking about right now. You will say, well, Dr. Torsunov, you see, we need to feed our children and so on. We have no money in the country, we need to think about that. I understand all of this, but one must also understand that it is still temporary. If it is temporary, that means that a person who is not living rightly is destroying their own life. If we don't invest in what matters most, then we become weaker and weaker with each passing year. For example, people ask me, why did our family fall apart? And it's because there are 3 layers of personal life within a family. At the lowest level, when people simply want their own personal happiness at any cost, they constantly argue, start drinking, and so on. And they inevitably split up, inevitably, 100% they will get divorced. If people have set somewhat higher goals for themselves, they think, well, we need to raise children, save up for a house. They've set these higher goals and started working hard, then they will stay together for some time. But when they start to get at least a little tired of what they are doing, working themselves to exhaustion, and when they at least begin to reap the fruits of their efforts, their hearts will feel that they are heading in the wrong direction. And most often people come to the conclusion that this is simply the wrong person. They draw the wrong conclusions. They think that I am not living with the right person. And they don't understand that I'm simply living the wrong way. So in this second layer, people also separate, but mostly after 6 or 10 years. That's roughly how it goes. And only when people begin to work on themselves, pray, grow as individuals, and learn to care for one another, can they truly preserve their family for life. But not even all of them, because sometimes they simply run out of time. That means that sometimes the weight of fate accumulated and a person just didn't make it in time, you see? But that doesn't mean they won't manage at all. That means that perhaps they will manage, but nevertheless destruction is happening in parallel with what is being built because it had accumulated earlier. That means that if we haven't properly established the right values in life, the family cannot survive. You see how interesting that is? So a person has set their values incorrectly. What does the family have to do with it? It turns out that a family can only be preserved through conscience. If you have grown as a person and your conscience has started to work, then it gives you the knowledge of what to do, forgive, be patient, and so on. But if you don't have this, if you haven't developed, then you won't be able to preserve anything. You will act out of a sense of revenge or punishment toward your close person and so on. All of this simply destroys relationships, and that's all there is to it. A young woman here asked me a question. Her consciousness is very developed. She said, well, he cheated on me. But at the same time, she is ready to take him back. That means she has a very strong character, and she is ready to pray and wait for this person. This is a very strong position in life, and such a girl will undoubtedly be happy in her personal life, without any doubt. When she passes all her tests, you simply need to work hard and understand that life does not depend on any particular person. It depends on how you pass the tests from your past. And try to understand this. Most of you know nothing about your past because it is very difficult to find out the past life. Just recently, when I was giving lectures in Chisinau, I already knew before that in some past life I had lived somewhere in the Western countries. But when I arrived in Chisinau and saw the Moldovans, I felt something familiar. And I simply began to pray and saw, I literally felt the place where I had lived in my past life. I felt that it was somewhere in Romania, between Romania and Moldova, somewhere around there. I clearly felt it so strongly that if someone put me in a car, I could find that place. I have no doubt that this is so. I had already felt my past life before this as well. But now it is already clearly understood. And all of this gradually opens up and unfolds before a person. Many of you thought, well, Dr. Torsunov, you're probably in the early stages of schizophrenia. I sensed those thoughts just now. That's normal. I agree with you that it's normal to think that way because for you this may be completely beyond comprehension. But if I give you some small hints right now, you may of course resist them, but they might point to something. Now there are two categories of boys that are born. Some of them are very courageous, behave very boldly, and have no fear, while others are very tearful, tender, and capricious, as if they are not a boy at all, but a girl. And people say about such boys that he should have been born a girl, but was born a boy. No, he was meant to be born a boy. He simply was a girl in his past life. He had a female body. And that boy who is brave and courageous, he was a man in his past life. In the same way, there are two categories of girls. Some of them behave like boys in childhood, in early childhood, while others behave like girls. Those who behave like boys were men in their past life, and those who behave like girls, they were women. And when a girl behaves like a girl, she is very strong in feminine qualities in this life. And the one who lives and behaves like a boy, she only truly realizes that she is in a female body after some time, say, around the age of 12. That means that, for example, she has courage in her character from childhood, is not afraid of anything, and then somewhere around the age of 12, she suddenly starts being afraid of everything. Raise your hand if this happened to you. There is no doubt that in your past life you were a man. There is no doubt about it for everyone who raised their hand. In the same way, men who became brave over time, but were cowardly in childhood at first, there is no doubt that they were a woman in their past life. That's my case. In my past life, I was a woman. In a female body, as they say, in a female body. Some say, that's impossible. We only live one life. How can you say just one life? For instance, even if we speak of just one life, we are constantly undergoing changes. You have already changed your body many times. Do you know about this? In this very life, you have changed your body many times because your small body, the body of a little child, becomes a new body after 7 years. Over the course of 7 years, the body replaces all of its elements. It is already a new body, a different one, but the person within it remains the same. Even from this perspective, we must understand that we do not live in the same body throughout our existence. It is constantly changing. That means that a person has a subtle body, and there is also a physical body. And the subtle body accumulates events and knowledge from all the lives that came before. Once God briefly showed me a whole succession of lives that I had lived, and I wanted more and more. At some point I saw something where I literally felt that body as my own. I saw this elongated body, long like that. I was devouring someone's flesh, and I wasn't really feeling any taste. I felt that what I enjoyed was precisely that it was alive. I liked that it was alive. And my body was so clumsy and awkward. I realized it was the body of a crocodile. I was in shock. That was many, 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 many lifetimes ago. That means that even the body remembered this. Sometimes I fly in my dreams. I fly. The body of a bird. The memory remained, because the greatest happiness a bird experiences comes from the act of flying. And so it receives the body of a bird in order to fly. But what I'm telling you right now is beyond the limits of human consciousness. You might say, sure, but birds aren't even alive. What do you mean they're not alive? There are signs of life. If something reaches for happiness, for example, a tree reaches for the sun. If a bird is drawn to another bird, that is a sign of life. That means there is a soul there. Is there love between birds? Yes, this is a sign of the presence of a soul. Is there love between dogs? Yes. Is there love between fish? Plants love the sun. They reach toward the sun. That is also love. Trees have protection, bark, and animals have fur and teeth. That means that if there is defense, protection, a person, well, a living being is protecting its own life. This is a sign of the presence of a soul. Also, the ability to reproduce is a sign of the presence of a soul. Also, the very ability to form a complex structure, which is called a material body. Even a tree is a structure of colossal complexity. It is impossible for a human to create. We can only, well, influence genes, right? And in this way it will grow differently. But we cannot simply grow a tree because it is the soul that does it, you see. That means that a person cannot grow anything. People say, we grew the harvest. You planted the seeds. You could have even set up an automated irrigation system, but you didn't grow the harvest because it is the soul that grows the wheat stalks. That means we can only grow our own body in the same way. In other words, this world is so deep and diverse that we should not evaluate it. For simplicity, people say, animals have no soul. Well, for simplicity's sake, to avoid overthinking it. But there is a soul there. And even microbes have a soul, you see. There are different forms of life, and they are meant for different purposes. For example, if you were to ask all people, what do you live for? They would say, we live for happiness. You are mistaken. It is not people, but animals that live for happiness. Animals live for happiness, specifically for happiness, and they receive much more happiness than a human being. And that is why people are drawn to animals. That is why people keep cats at home, to absorb this relaxing energy. People are often very stressed at work and cannot relax or rest. But a cat is born to experience the greatest happiness from relaxation. And that is why its body is structured in such a way that if you lift its leg, it stays up and doesn't fall. It is so relaxed that its entire body is very soft, so relaxed. You see? And a person wants that too, so they hold the cat close and enjoy its relaxing energy. And all people who live only for happiness think, I want only happiness, only happiness. This means that possibly, in the next life, one will have the body of an animal. It's possible, not certain, but possible, because a person can change their desires. I am telling you things that are very difficult to understand. You may think that I am behaving like a child right now. You can think that way. But if you are reasonable people, you will start thinking about patterns. Once I was giving a seminar on the law of karma, well, roughly the same topic, and I was put up in a house, a private home belonging to a person who attended my lectures. And when he listened to this seminar, he came up to me and said, I'm going to tell you something right now, but please don't tell anyone. Because, well, this sounds like fantasy to me. But I'm either crazy or something like that. But I genuinely kind of see it and can't do anything about it. He told me that his parents used to argue with each other a great deal and were very attached to their house. And they were not interested in self-improvement, they simply enjoyed life, argued with each other and so on. They lived their whole lives together. Then one after another they passed away. About 8 or 9 months later, 2 puppies started howling and whining constantly near the house. And he didn't know what to do with them. Then, when he let them in, built 2 kennels for them, and started living with them, he felt that they were like family to him, and he loved them very much. But then the female puppy started eating what the father used to eat. And he noticed in that muzzle the features resembling his father's face. And the male puppy began to show signs of resemblance to the mother. Then when they grew up, they started fighting, barking at each other terribly. And he could clearly see those emotions, the very same ones his parents had. And he was simply in shock from all of this. God showed him something. You see, one can end up in the body of a dog. But you may think I'm crazy and believe that I'm telling you some nonsense. And what I'm telling you is about the human form of life. Even if you don't believe what I said, and you have the right not to believe it, that is normal because this world is so complex and diverse that it is very difficult to understand how it is structured. In any case, the human form of life is not meant for happiness. It is meant for self-improvement. And a person truly finds happiness in the human form of life if they achieve success in this activity. That means that people must understand that we're souls, that we are eternal. We must believe in God, learn to pray, learn to work on ourselves, learn to be patient, learn to forgive, and dedicate ourselves wholeheartedly to something in life. And this is the purpose of human life. No animal is capable of forgiveness, you see. It cannot believe in God and dedicate itself to something in life consciously, rather than simply out of necessity. Dogs also dedicate their lives to their owner. They believe in their owner, but simply out of necessity. When the owner changes, they believe in the new one. A human being is a rational living creature, and we must first learn how to live. We study mathematics, physics, and chemistry. But first one must learn how to live. One must understand the purpose of the human form of life. Otherwise, nothing good will come in life. Because if we don't steer our lives in the right direction, then everything else that happens around us happens in an incomplete way. The Vedas say this, although I am not focusing your attention on the Vedas. That means that all the scriptures say the same thing. If a person, for example, draws water from a river, then they have enough for everything. But if one draws from a well, there may not be enough water. In the same way, if a person knows the ultimate purpose of life, they receive so much energy of happiness that it is enough for everything, for all their goals. Some people say, I don't want to be a monk. What do I need these prayers for? Understand, we are talking about the energy of happiness right now. About the fact that most people, all people lack happiness, the energy of happiness. That is why people thirst for this happiness. But they don't know that if a person stops living for happiness and begins to live in order to serve God, people, and nature, then this energy of happiness comes to them on its own because that is how our life is designed. So if we love nature, not yourself but nature, then it gives us health. If we love people, not ourselves but people, then people give us social strength. All types of social strength come from people, from the fact that we love them, and they give us that strength. To get married, you need to love people in a certain way. To have a strong, good job, you need to love people in a certain way. To be successful in society, one must love people in a certain way. And all these different kinds of love are different kinds of human strength in this world. And if you lack this strength, then you are not aware of this love or potential within yourself. And if a person loves God in different ways, they overcome their fate in different ways. That means that bad fate can only be overcome with God's help. People can help, and so on. You need to know how to love, how to forgive, and to give yourself completely. I don't want to teach you Vedic philosophy. I like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism alike. I study all of it, and I enjoy all of it. Now let us talk simply about our life and our fate, and about the patterns we need to know. So fate is woven from our past actions and desires. They shape everything in our lives. For example, if a person desired love and harmony in life, they are born in a female body, not because of zygotes. You see, these zygotes align as they should because there is a subtle energy body. It influences everything that happens in the physical body. It influences chromosomes and DNA. Nothing happens by chance. Because there is a subtle energy body, and within this subtle energy body, human fate resides. Therefore, everything is already predetermined. And the ancient physicians could diagnose the channels, these subtle energy channels, how they form in a child while still in the mother's womb. And these channels are called shrotas, which form the physical body. And the ancient physicians could determine by pulse which shrotas were not forming normally. And they predicted prenatal developmental disorders in the child. And it turns out that sound can be used to influence these channels, especially when the child is still developing, and they, using such sounds and prayers, would, eliminate these hereditary disorders in the child. Can you imagine how knowledgeable they were about life? But they didn't have computers or anything like that. They did this using the mind. The mind is an instrument, a very powerful instrument, capable of seeing human fate. Fate acts through the eyes. Voice is a sign of intelligence. That means that sound itself is connected to a person's intelligence. Therefore, you should choose a person based on how they communicate, not by their eyes. Eyes connect two fates. Fate resides in the eyes. People connect through their hearts. For the sake of true love, we must remember that our loved ones are bound to us for life by an invisible thread. So we look at people, we connect with them through our eyes, but the connection happens in the heart. And that is why a mother worries about her children, because she is connected to them through her heart and gives them her energy of happiness during that worry. But when she is in despair, already feeling that something is wrong, it means that her energy of happiness has run out and she is unable to help her child. We feel the fate of those close to us, and we feel our own fate. A person feels a strong anxiety in their heart. Right here in the heart is where fate lives. A person thinks something in my life is going wrong. Life has somehow become difficult for me. Raise your hand if this is happening to you right now. You are not mistaken. You are all going through a difficult period in your fate. For everyone, it will last a different amount of time. You are not mistaken, it is true. You feel the truth. A person can feel their own fate. It is not written in the palm of a fortune teller or in an astrologer's computer. It is written in your own heart, right here. Simply learn to accept it and feel it. The first rule for feeling your own fate is to accept it first. If you don't accept it, if you disagree with what is happening, then you will never understand. Some people ask me, should I stay in this country or leave? Accept this country first, and then you will understand whether you should leave or not. 20% need to leave, 80% need to stay, approximately, according to statistics. But you don't know which percentage you fall into. You must first accept this country and its fate. And when you accept it, then you will understand your fate. If you want to understand your close person, whether to live with them or not, you must first accept them. This person is your fate. Because in this world, nothing that we see around us happens by chance. Everything is connected specifically to our fate and nothing else. And even the fact that you are listening to my lectures is not a coincidence, because at some point you wanted to get knowledge, and you received this knowledge. But this is no longer called fate. This is called the grace of God. That means that God always guides a person along their life's path. You need to figure out whether this is the right path for you or not when you listen to me. But for that, you don't need to go online and search for Torsunov links. For this, you need to ask your own heart and your elders, if you have any. They will tell you everything. Gossip doesn't help you figure things out. There is a lot of gossip going around right now. Elders can help. Some people say, I am a religious person, a very deeply religious person. My mentor tells me not to listen to your lectures. What do you think I should do? I say, don't listen to them if your mentor says so. You already have a mentor, so why would you need to listen to my lectures? You have already chosen your path in life. I help those who haven't chosen yet. Fate lives right here in the heart. This is where a person's fate resides. It has invisible threads connecting us with other people. It is visible through the eyes. For example, the right eye reflects a person's willpower and their social activity. If the right eye is strong, active, it means the person is socially strong. I say strong, active. You might ask, how can you tell? Is it larger in size? I'm not talking about size right now. I'm talking about what we see in the eyes. In the eyes, we see something different. We don't see things like eyelashes or how they are structured. That comes later. If, for instance, one is drawn to a person's energy in their heart, then they will later start paying attention to the body as well and begin to evaluate it. Only then does a person pay attention to that. But first a person sees and feels their fate. A person feels their own fate in another person and believes that this fate is good. A person believes it first, and that is good. Otherwise, people would never get married. If they could see everything in their fate that their loved one would later bring them, they would never live together. That's why God deceives us a little. It's as if He first shows everything that is best, lures us in and says, here is your fate, look at what it is. He shows the soul in a person first. He shows the most important thing, He shows the soul. And that is why a person falls in love. Why do we fall in love? Because we see the soul in the person. God shows what matters most. There is no need to strive for anything beyond that. Hold on to what you saw. Learn to see your loved one as they were shown to you, and you will see your fate blessing your life through that loved one. See your close person as you were shown from the very beginning. A small child sees the soul in their parents and then forgets about it later. Children love their parents very much in childhood because they see the soul. But then we start to see flaws and become befouled by all of this. Because we are meant to see these flaws, for this is our fate. And grace always comes first. First, God shows us all the very best, and then He gives us the opportunity to learn to see all the very best through the path of suffering. In the left eye lies a person's personal life, their close relationships, love, and tenderness. The right eye reflects a person's willpower, their ability to overcome challenges, their endurance, and determination. The left eye reflects a person's kindness, simplicity, tenderness, and beauty. When both eyes are tense, it means the person is going through a difficult period in life. Tension in the eyes does not mean glaucoma. This is how the subtle energy acts, you see? The person's subtle energy body is under tension. You look into someone's eyes and say, what's wrong with you? And they say, life has somehow become hard to bear. This is how fate works. And a person begins to search for the reason. People think, maybe someone put the evil eye on me. Maybe it's the wrong country. Maybe something else. Well, they say, something has made life feel heavy. But they simply cannot imagine that this is how fate impacts them. People think that they have just been unlucky. A person always blames the people closest to them. And every person thinks exactly this way. One thinks, well, you see, Dr. Torsunov, this is the kind of person I have to deal with. Let's say problems have started with a close person. It is not the person who is like this, but rather fate acting through this person. And when you understand this, you will overcome your fate more quickly. It is very hard to live with such a person, because the key is to separate your fate from the person. When we become too attached to a person and think that they are to blame for our life's problems, at that moment we cannot overcome our fate, because there are 3 steps to defeating one's fate. 3 steps. The first step is to stop blaming anyone for your problems, knowing, just theoretically knowing that all of them are a reflection of my own life. Because this world is very complex and it is very harmonious. Everything that exists around us is all our fate, every person. And none of this was given to us by chance because we ourselves once behaved in such a way. About a week and a half ago, I was giving a webinar, and one woman told me, my close person left me in a very cruel way. I loved him very much and he just cast me aside. He said, I will not live with you, and left. She said, I prayed so hard to God, I cried, saying, Lord, why? Why me? Why are you doing this to me? I understand that this is my fate. I accept everything. I agree with all of it. Do you see how she began to pray? She prayed, show me, what is all of this that I'm suffering through right now? What for? And suddenly she saw before her the following scene, a girl sitting in complete despair. In front of her, as if she herself were not a girl. And she, being in a male body, says to this girl, I am leaving you. And the girl says, stay with me. She's on her knees crying, grabbing at his legs, and he says no, and leaves. And I said to that woman, in your past life being a man, you abandoned your loved one. She suffered much more than you are suffering now, much more. She essentially lost her life because of you. And that is why you are being punished now. I believe I even told her, this happened 2 lifetimes ago. This is already the 2nd life you have been paying for this. And she said to me, Dr. Torsunov, I saw it. And she described this vision to me, but she said, when I saw it, I didn't understand what I had seen. Why? I saw that woman and so on. You see, all of this exists, but we lack this knowledge. You might say, what kind of injustice is this? Why don't I know what I'm suffering for? Why did God do this? It's all so unfair. Understand that knowledge of one's past and one's mistakes is a sign of an enlightened and developed personality, and one still needs to get to this level. Thank God we were born in a human form of life. That's already a good start. You simply need to understand how this world works. That we were born as human beings and can learn everything more deeply, that's already great for a start. But people are not developed enough to know everything. We're only beginning to develop. According to the Vedas, there are 5 stages of development of a living being within a body. The first stage refers to consciousness. These are the stages related to consciousness. The first stage is related to consciousness. Consciousness is the energy of the soul. We are all souls, we have energy, we have consciousness. And this consciousness can be covered by degradation to varying degrees. According to the Vedas, when consciousness is heavily covered by degradation, the soul neither understands nor remembers itself. This life is called dreamless sleep. It is as if the soul sleeps its entire life in an eternal slumber, like a sleeping princess. And people even have a state of lethargy. That means that life goes on, they live, but remember nothing and understand nothing. That means that this option is built into us. And another option is also built in. People stop behaving like people and start acting like animals. But that's not what we're talking about right now. So this is the form of life in the body of a tree. So that means that a living being, a soul, lives in the body of a tree. It sleeps, it rests, it just wanted to sleep. One is tired of everything already and just wants happiness, and that's it. Doesn't want to work oneself to death and just wants happiness, and that's it. Fine, get the body of a tree. There is such an option. You can just experience happiness for many, many years. You're telling me you don't need happiness for just 5 years? I need 1,000 years of happiness. Then get the body of a tree. It grows for 1,000 years without any problems, and nothing but happiness, nothing more. And the tree reaches for happiness, it grows, and it falls deeper and deeper into sleep. When the branches are trimmed, the tree grows better. That is why the tree's branches are trimmed, to stir it from its sleep. And if the tree is a good one, then it feeds everyone with good fruit. But if it is wicked, then its fruits are poisonous. That is just the nature of the tree. Trees can have different characters. Good trees accumulate good fate and then develop further, and so on. There is the next form of life. It is a dream with dreams. This is already an animal form of life, and it is evolving. Darwin says that first a bacterium appeared, then some kind of mutation happened, and boom, it turned into a turtle, and so on. Well, gradually, not all at once, but through mutations, so to speak. But then, scientists realized this, started conducting mutations, and nothing good came of it. They wanted to create natural selection, and they were performing these mutations. It turns out that all mutations lead to degradation, not development. And they were not able to produce a single mutation that would cause a living being to gain something better rather than something worse. You see? And they explained that over billions of years, mutations do eventually select something better. I'm not against any of these theories. I'm simply sharing with you what I have learned from my elders and what I have come to see and understand on my own, to some extent. For example, jellyfish. They have almost no consciousness at all. That means that they are still asleep, almost like plants. Therefore, this form of life is very similar to the plant form. Then comes the fish. It only has fear in its eyes and pleasure, and nothing else. No smiles, nothing at all. It only feels fear and joy, and that's all there is to its life. That's all. Look into those round eyes and you will see either fear or happiness. That's it, no other emotions. Next comes the lizard. It already has curiosity. It displays strong activity. So, it's already exploring everything. It already has anger. Fish have no anger, just fear or pleasure. But the lizard has emotions. The bird is on the next, more developed stage. A living being awakens. It awakens within the body of an animal. It means a dreaming sleep. A bird chirps. There is only fear in its eyes, but it already experiences happiness and begins to radiate it through sound. It sings. For example, birds are interested in everything related to pleasant sounds. When I read prayers near the house, little birds come and sit to listen and chirp. They are busy with their own things, but they like that someone is making a positive sound. The main thing is not to look at them, because they are very easily frightened. If you look at them, they fly away immediately. But if you don't look at them and pretend they aren't there, they will sit nearby and chirp the whole time while you pray. They are simply afraid of being looked at. Just don't look at them, that's all, because they are very easily frightened. Then there are wild animals such as hares. Put it next to a cat. Have you ever seen a hare next to a cat? No. There you go. A hare has no emotions. A cat has more developed consciousness. That means it can even smile. And it can even flirt and strut around. That means that its consciousness is more developed. It communicates. If it's not allowed somewhere, it scratches and says, "What's the matter?" But the rabbit just sits and eats. And that's it. It doesn't scratch, it doesn't interact with anyone. A rabbit will simply either eat or not eat. And a rabbit is also afraid. And it can enjoy itself if you pet it. It just sits there. But the rabbit absolutely has to eat even during that time, otherwise there's no happiness. So domestic animals absorb consciousness from people, which makes them more developed. There are wild animals that can be more developed. These are wolves and wild boars. But pigs are more developed than wild boars, because they interact with people. And dogs are more developed than wolves, because they interact with people. Consciousness is transmitted from one living being to another. That is why a person also becomes more developed if they communicate with a mentor, a more developed person. And so, consciousness gradually awakens in animals. They wake up little by little. Dogs sometimes get scared of their own reflection and bark at it, but then realize that it's me. Over time, they already recognize themselves in the reflection. So consciousness is developing. But no animal can be compared to a human being. Animals have dream-filled sleep, while humans already have an awakening consciousness. This is no longer a dream. You see, one is already awakening from sleep. But the desires are still the same. That means that a person dreams, thinking, "I want happiness, I want everything to be good for me." And so all of this is, in a way, a dream. These are the kinds of dreams a person has. I want a wife like that so I can touch her the way I like. Pleasure. A woman also wants to feel pleasure when she is touched. Otherwise, why live with him? If he doesn't bring pleasure to me, that means that these are dreams just like animals have. Animals want exactly the same things. And while people are still caught up in these dreams, they don't understand that they are human beings. They don't understand that they need to learn a higher form of love, to see the purity in another person, rather than simply seeking pleasure from them. We don't understand this yet. And our fate is to understand this, to learn to comprehend it, because we have an awakening consciousness. And there are still 3 more stages ahead. The second stage is called awakened consciousness. This is when a person begins to understand that there were past lives and there will be future lives. And having truly awakened consciousness means one must live by one's conscience, one must not abandon this path, one must study the laws of God and live strictly by them. One must have mentors. I am listing for you the signs of awakened consciousness. One must have a mentor. A person with an awakened consciousness understands that they are not God, they are a sinner, and therefore they need support from elders, from nature, from people. That means that one is dependent on all of this. A person with an awakening consciousness believes that they can handle everything on their own. That is the difference. With an awakened consciousness, a person understands their dependence on everything and tries to find their place in it all, cultivating humility within. And there is also an enlightened consciousness. If you say the word saint, it means an enlightened consciousness. A holy person is enlightened. They fully understand everything that happens in this world. They have absolutely no doubts about this whatsoever. A holy person clearly and fully understands everything that is happening around. But we cannot imitate holiness, you see. A holy person reveals themselves through absolute humility and absolute purity. They never do foolish things, never lose composure, they are very compassionate, and so on. These are the qualities of a holy person. No matter what anyone pretends to be, we cannot imitate the qualities of a holy person. And even giving lectures does not mean holiness. These are simply some kind of professional abilities, perhaps. Holiness is something different. This is a very high level of consciousness, inaccessible to an ordinary person. And such people are born this way from childhood. One famous saint observed fasting even whilst being breastfed as a baby. On holy days he did not take milk, he fasted. We cannot imitate this. This is a very high level of personal development. So we are all at different stages of development. Suppose you tell someone, how could you do such a thing? Do you have a conscience? Know that conscience only appears in an awakened consciousness. All other people, they get married, live together, they have goals, to build a house, raise children, go to school. They love their homeland, they consider themselves to be religious people. You see, there is a difference between truly believing and simply considering oneself a believer. But at the same time, they abandon their loved ones, saying that they have finally found their true love and will no longer live with you, but will live with another person. You see, it seemed like everything was fine, normal. But why did one commit such a cruel act? We were close people. There was no real closeness at all. People can only be truly close to one another when they have awakened consciousness. True friendship only exists between such people. People who simply live for the sake of family, an apartment, and children do not have awakened consciousness, and this means that their conscience sometimes opens and sometimes closes. It's not that it doesn't exist, it does, but it doesn't always function because the person is not yet developed. So in order to have stability in your personal life, you need to first develop yourself, my dears, and only then start lamenting, how could he leave me? Well, because that's how you lived. You did not live to think about God and pray, but simply lived for your children, for your family. And that is precisely the kind of existence that does not include conscience, because conscience is connected to God. It is the energy of God, it is the representation of God. If a person knows nothing about God, they have no contact with their conscience. Conscience is transmitted through a spiritual mentor and through the scriptures. Conscience is transmitted through good people. And when you were abandoned, did you go to good people or to psychologists and astrologers? If a person does not believe that God will speak the truth through good people, it means they do not understand what conscience is. You need to go to kind people who truly love you and not just those who simply agree with everything you say. And this kind person embodies awakened consciousness. They are a developed person, a truly believing person who can genuinely be kind. Because sometimes people say things that should not be said to a person. You're great, you're a good person, he's a jerk. He's gone and good riddance. You see, that's not kindness, that's a lack of development. Therefore, one must develop, one must strive to understand this world, this life. And that is also the purpose of our conversations. But this doesn't mean only our conversations. Such conversations take place in every temple, in every parish, and so on. There is so much depth in all of this. And it is not necessary to know the topic of fate in detail. Every person who truly believes in God intuitively understands what fate is. And they will tell you the same thing, that you are suffering for your past sins. You see, sometimes this is analyzed in detail, and sometimes it is not. And perhaps there is no point in this detailed analysis because one should not dive too deeply into it either. The purpose of human life is defined. It is God and service to Him. As for everything else, some people enjoy exploring it and do so, while others don't and simply don't spend time on it. If you've studied the topic of fate very well, that doesn't mean you've become a holy person. No knowledge is needed for those who have a restless mind. But if, for example, someone tells you, don't overthink it, just think about God, don't assume that person is foolish. This person is wiser. They simply know where one needs to move faster and what is not worth wasting time on. And that's it. That is why some faiths have this well-developed, detailed knowledge of how everything works, while others do not pay too much attention to it, focusing more on what is essential, so that a person does not get distracted or scattered. And therefore one should not think that my faith is worse because I won't learn anything here. Faith is like an arrow. It flies upward. It is not meant for learning everything. This world is infinitely diverse and profound. You can't learn everything. But since you have come, I am sharing with you what I know about this and everything else. So faith has a past. And this past will always affect us in the present. And there is also past, which has not yet affected the present. However, it will have an impact on the future. That is why we do not know everything about ourselves. Many things are hidden from us we do not know. Only a small layer of fate is affecting us right now. And there is much more that has been planned, which will come into effect. And only enlightened people have a rough idea of what will happen next. That means that they sense which milestones of fate they will have to face. But not everyone senses this. You see, there are many people who are very much connected to fate and who want to help you with your fate. Most of the time, they get in the way. Most of the time. Let me explain this. Now let's consider this. Can a person's fate be seen in their horoscope? Yes. But a horoscope is merely a hint at one's fate. It is not fate itself. It is simply a hint. Can you, for example, actually choose a girl to marry based solely on a description of her physical characteristics? Say, height, 170 centimeters, such and such weight, such and such face? Can you? Just as you would choose a wife based on all these characteristics. In the same way, a person explains fate based on the indicators shown in the horoscope. This is very complex, you see. But in ancient cultures, people could see a person and their fate and simply use the horoscope to confirm what they had already seen. But nowadays, people have lost that ability to see, and they simply blurt out whatever they've seen in the horoscope. There is another problem with this. It lies in the fact that in ancient culture, only people of strong moral character were allowed access to this knowledge. First, a person must thoroughly master the laws of morality, and only then can they master the laws of astrology. For instance, if a person does not know that one must never tell someone that their family will fall apart, then that person cannot be an astrologer. Because if you tell someone that they will have 2 marriages, you are essentially condemning them to the destruction of their family. And that sin will fall on your shoulders as well. Can you imagine how these ignorant people ruin their own lives? That means that they don't really understand what they're dealing with, and they tell people such things. Your house will burn down, you'll have 2 marriages, and you don't need to bother buying an autumn coat. A person's fate is meant to be overcome. There is no other purpose. All the milestones of fate that we have are merely obstacles that must be overcome. In fate, there are, of course, various obstacles. They can ruin one's life. That can happen too, but you should never tell a person that they are bound to lose in battle. Otherwise, they most certainly will. Let's say a battle is coming, and someone tells a person, don't worry, you're going to lose. That's complete nonsense, you see. And it just makes you laugh because it doesn't even work as a joke, you see. But it's funny. A person came to fight, and they tell him, well, according to your fate, you will lose. So what am I supposed to do? Nothing, just fight and die. Wonderful help, just great. Doctor, am I going to live at all? Well, I wouldn't advise it. Wonderful indeed. Great help. So if you came to a person who was supposed to tell you about your fate, and they're frightening you, this person is not qualified because they don't understand how fate works. Fate is simply that which makes us stronger and helps us grow. That's all. There is no other reason for it. All obstacles arise so that we may grow, and a person is always given a burden that they can bear. Except in those cases where the burden is meant to cut short one's fate because one cannot bear it. And there are two options. The first option is that a person begins to believe very strongly in God, and God, by His mercy, extends their life. And the second option is that God will certainly give the knowledge that everything here is coming to an end, and will bring peace to a person on this matter. In other words, there is no injustice in this world. Sometimes we overcome our fate, sometimes we don't. Then we will handle it in the next life. From the perspective of our life, the subtle energy body does not die. It lives forever. As long as we live in this world, it does not die. From this perspective, it may be considered eternal. But within it, fate constantly changes and accumulates. It constantly changes and accumulates depending on our desires and actions. If you had learned to remember yourself in the past, you would have had no doubts. But a person doesn't remember their past because everything feels too familiar, you see. Sometimes, in dreams, we often see our past lives, but we don't realize it. We often see our past lives because we frequently connect them to this current life. It is very difficult for a person to navigate their own memory. People say memory is an illusion. Memory is not an illusion. It is contact with some part of our reality. But since we don't fully comprehend our reality, it seems like an illusion to us. Memory always connects with reality. It never connects with anything else. Memory is connected to fate. When a person recalls their life, at that moment a sound comes from fate. We cannot hear this sound. We cannot hear the sound of fate because it immediately evokes memories of ourselves. So fate resonates in a person's heart. Moreover, it does not only resonate in our own heart, it also resonates in the hearts of our loved ones, as well as in the heart of our boss. That means that my fate is very strongly connected to everything that is connected to me. And depending on what is destined for me, there is an unwavering influence on all the people who are connected to me. An unwavering influence, you see? Unwavering influence. A person has no option, only an exalted person has an option. If this person is spiritually developed, they can bestow their grace upon you and not act as fate compels them to. Now, where is the woman who was talking to me? You, yes? Your fate is pushing you to leave your husband right now. It is pushing you right now, forcing you to do it. But if you are a reasonable person, you can show him grace and choose not to leave him. But there will be a lingering feeling of unease in your heart. After that, a lingering feeling will remain. Damn, why didn't I leave him after all? It will weigh on you. You see, you made that choice and you didn't leave him. In truth, it is a sin to abandon someone close to you. This is wrong and it destroys your own fate. But since this is what his fate dictates right now, you feel as though you cannot help but leave him. You want to leave him, you see? That is how his fate is acting on you right now. But this is also your fate because God is testing your resilience right now. You are a good person. God is testing you so that you become even better. This is the purpose of human life, not that you need to submit to this command. Some people say, but I can't because, well, it's obvious that I need to leave. I can't live with this person. It is not obvious that you need to leave him. This desire is merely the influence of fate and nothing more. This does not mean it is a call to action. Desire is the influence of fate, and so fate acts through desire. Everything we want is the influence of fate, either our own or that of the people close to us. But this is also our fate. But the fate of those close to us is also woven into it. Some people ask, Dr. Torsunov, who is to blame for my illness, my mom or my dad? In your past life, you earned this illness, and that is why you were given parents who also suffer from this same illness, so that it would all be passed on to you at the level of the subtle energy body as well. But they are not to blame. If they heal themselves and help you heal as well, that will be an act of grace. But they are not to blame for your illness. Your past life is to blame. That is why a small child is born with a disability. The mother is not at fault. Her lifestyle was wrong, which caused her uterus to contract, and as a result, she had a birth injury. This is a fact. That is exactly what happened. But this is the influence of that child's fate. Because when a person harms or cripples someone in a past life, they are born crippled in this life. You see, fate is a very harsh thing. It acts relentlessly. But there is a certain option. So have you understood the point about astrologers? That there are mentors, enlightened people who see one's fate in a chart and guide you to correct it. And nothing more beyond that. They only say what they can advise on and what they cannot. They simply stay silent because there is nothing to talk about. If you cannot help a person, it is better to stay silent. God will help instead of you. You see? But if you say something that you cannot fix yourself, it becomes a curse because the person believes you. Don't listen to such people. Suppose you went to some astrologer and an obstacle arose in your life that they did not help you resolve. Raise your hand if that happened to you. If this person is unqualified, do not listen to them and do not take what they said seriously. Although there may be a grain of truth in it, it is only a very small grain and one that should not be taken seriously at all. Know that truly seeing your fate is only possible when you are able to overcome it. For example, if you are given the ability to see a certain event, it means you can overcome it. If you cannot overcome that event, you will not see it. Because contact with any event can only happen through overcoming it. That means that the person who can overcome their fate is the one who sees events and immediately explains how to overcome them. And those people who speak about an event but cannot overcome it, yet speak about it anyway, are always wrong. Because that is simply not how the vision of fate works in general. Therefore, never trust people who try to frighten you. Especially fortune tellers, that's just the lowest grade option of all. They do indeed sense fate, but they sense fate through spirits. You see, there are evil spirits that can sense fate, and they always frighten a person. Because when a person gets frightened, they become bound to this evil spirit. And in this way, a person becomes dependent on the spirit and develops a mental illness. To do this, it is enough to simply frighten a person greatly and introduce an overriding idea into their consciousness. The same goes for spirits. They operate through various psychological techniques as well. For example, if you came to a holotropic breathing session and started breathing rapidly in order to learn about your fate, you have this idea, this mindset, and you breathe for a bit, and then, bam, and you saw something. At this moment, when a person becomes weakened as a result of rapid breathing, a spirit enters their consciousness, one whose goal is to show them something that binds the person to that spirit, and the person begins to believe that they have seen their past life. But know this, seeing your past life is a reward. You can't buy anything good for cheap. I was once in Jagannath Puri, and there people were selling corals, and they were saying that they had harvested them from the sea themselves. I then went to a gemstone specialist and showed him. He said, first of all, corals are not harvested in Jagannath Puri, just so you know. And secondly, so you know, he said, no one will ever sell a real coral cheaply, even if they harvested it themselves, because it has its own price. And that's how I learned about gemstones. No genuine natural stones are ever sold cheaply because nobody is that foolish. I can tell you the exact same thing about fate. God will not give you knowledge about your fate cheaply, because this knowledge is a sign of strong personal development. And this knowledge is also a blessing. A person cannot know more than they are meant to know. Therefore, there is no need to delve into this realm and go to all these fortune tellers. They will only frighten you, and that's all. It is better to go to a wise person so that they can bless you. Because a blessing is the very force that changes one's fate, even if you don't know in what way this change will occur. So fate is connected to the influence of time. What is time? Time is a force that acts on both the subtle energy body and the physical body, but it does not act on the soul. The soul has an eternal nature and does not perish under the influence of time. We are souls, we are absolutely immortal. We have a subtle energy body, as the Vedas say, which lives with us only because we live here, in the material world. We must know that we are, in fact, inhabitants of the spiritual world, not the material one. We are inhabitants of the spiritual world, not the material one. There is no subtle energy body and no fate in the spiritual world. There is a spiritual body and the fate of the living beings who reside in the spiritual world. The ever-increasing happiness that we dream of. What we want is for happiness to keep growing all the time. This is precisely what life in the spiritual world and in the spiritual body is like. But when it comes to the material world, happiness here keeps diminishing over time. I mean natural happiness. A person is born, and they have a great deal of natural happiness as a child. An abundance of natural happiness radiates from them, and everyone adores children. If we were to bring children up here right now, you wouldn't be looking at me, you'd be looking at them. Why? Because more happiness radiates from them than from me. And that's all. It's very simple. And a child feels this happiness, which is why they are glad to have been born. But if you put a sick old woman here, you would not look at her, you would look at me, because I am younger. So a person wants happiness in this world. We all want happiness, but we live for knowledge, and we always receive happiness as a reward for knowledge, for having started to live the right way. There is another kind of happiness that comes on its own in this life, and there is no need to eagerly wait for it or dream about it. You see, there's no need to wait and dream about it because it will come on its own anyway. The happiness that is meant for a person from the heart comes on its own, and there is no need to wait for it or dream about it because it will come on its own regardless, and it will go away on its own. And so just leave it alone. If you want to live happily, then strive for that which will not come on its own. And everything related to our desires comes through personal growth. For example, a girl wants to get married. It will come on its own because a girl is born a girl. You will get married, you will have children. Now, some will say that not all girls get married, not all of them have children. Yes, this means there are obstacles that need to be overcome. But if you were born a girl and you develop as a person, you overcome this obstacle and get married. And you overcome yet another obstacle and give birth to children. But if you keep waiting, you will overcome nothing. Because bad fate cannot be overcome through waiting. It can only be overcome through personal growth, when a person grows as an individual. Waiting alone does not help. People who wait for a good life wondering when, they are simply wasting their time, because it will never come. Either overcome it or make peace with it. So time acts upon the physical body, it ages the physical body. Time acts in two ways. The first way means that we age gradually, slowly, very gradually. And this way suits everyone. You see? For instance, if I were to naturally pass away from this body, die, that's not a good word because I will still be alive at that point. You see, it's a misconception. So if I pass away from this body at 85 or 90 years of age, that naturally means that this gradual aging has done its work, and I will be perfectly fine with that. And I'm sure every person feels the same way. Why? Because, well, living a normal life until, say, 85, that's normal. If you told someone 150 is normal, they would say, come on, stop it. We all know how this gradual aging works. And so people are in principle satisfied. They agree that living like that is quite normal. Gradual aging suits everyone. What does not suit people is cyclical aging. It turns out there are also cycles of influence on the body that cause very serious problems in the body. For example, I live a healthy lifestyle. The day before yesterday, I ran 15 kilometers and I feel great. Today, I plunged into ice-cold water 3 times, so that I would have the energy to give you this lecture. I mean, I live a healthy lifestyle. But in November of last year, my physical strength unexpectedly ran out, and my mental strength as well. And my healing methods based on using gemstones stopped helping me. They even started to increase tension in my body. I gave up all of it because all of that was making me feel worse. Only running, physical exercises, and fasting helped me. Nothing else did. Any artificial methods were no longer helping. And I increased my prayer. It was very hard for me to pray at that time. I warned all my friends. I said, don't count on me in your life because I don't even have enough strength for myself. And during that time in December, my father passed away. Because I could no longer give him strength. I didn't have enough for myself. There was nothing I could do about it, even though I have been doing this my whole life. I didn't suffer greatly. That means that I survived and helped him. Then I prayed for him. I could feel that certain transformations were happening to him. I prayed and prayed constantly. For a couple of days I did not stop praying even in my sleep, somehow like that. I prayed even in my sleep, although I was sleeping at the time. It was amazing to witness God gave me the ability to pray even while asleep. Well, it was like that for a couple of days. Not that I always did it that way. No. When I needed it most, God helped me. I will not share with you the details of what I witnessed happening with my father. This is very confidential information for me. I share a lot and I get criticized for it. They say about me that I'm boasting, but I don't want to share this information because it is very confidential. One way or another, some time passed and I started to feel better. I began to recover. I never had a feeling like, that's it, nothing can be done now. I feel bad, and it will be that way forever. This is what people often think. This is a cycle, you see, cyclical influence. This cycle will pass. But if during this cycle you don't take care of your health, then this period of time may have a serious impact on your physical strength, and you end up struggling to recover for many years afterward. Or it can hit you so hard that you'll never recover, you see. That's what I'm talking about. Understand that these cycles are a serious test of how a person lives. There are 3 types of strength that prolong life and eliminate these cyclical influences. And all people who do not do these 3 things are simply lazy and do not want to live long. And that's all there is to it. Or they simply don't know that it is so. Most often these 2 reasons combine. So the first one is water fasting. Not necessarily a dry fasting, just a water fasting. Fasting cleanses the subtle energy channels. And this influence of time blocks these subtle energy channels and creates chronic diseases. The cyclical influence of time on the physical body is treated through fasting. That means that fasting pushes this influence away from the body. Time cannot defeat fasting. That means that while you are fasting, this subtle energy, which is supposed to take your life away, loses its ability to do so. I'm not talking about those cases where it's already 100% predetermined. That is a different topic. Most of the time, this is not the case. Most often, a person dies prematurely simply because they did not live correctly. This is my conclusion, which I can see both in myself and in other people. I study this firsthand. I can see how the subtle energy body works. Why do I run 15 kilometers? Because I can see how the subtle energy body gets cleansed. When I sit in the sauna, I sit for as long as it takes to cleanse the subtle energy body. Because I can see how it happens. There are 4 energy layers in the subtle energy body. When I run for, say, 15 minutes, around 18 minutes, my body only just begins to cleanse itself from the influence of time. Then, for about another 20 minutes, the first energy layer gets cleansed. So it turns out that 38 minutes of running is what it takes to cleanse the first energy layer. This means that I will not have severe skin diseases, digestive system diseases, diseases of the mucous membranes, the lymphatic system. There will be no lymphatic system cancer. The capillaries in the body will not suffer. There will be no allergies, and so on. I need to run for 38 minutes to cleanse the first energy layer. The first energy layer of the subtle energy body. The next one is cleansed after another 20 minutes. That means I need to run for 58 minutes. 2 energy layers get cleansed. The third one gets cleansed after 1 hour and 18 minutes, and after 1 hour and 38 minutes, all 4 are cleansed. That's about 15 kilometers for me. I need to run for about an hour and 40 minutes to cleanse all the energy layers. Such is the price of life, you see. In my normal state right now, if I don't run, my active longevity ends at 64 years of age. For most people, life ends around this time because serious illnesses begin, and that's that. And from that point on, a person simply fades away. So when I run 15 kilometers, my active longevity lifespan is extended to 86 years, by 22 years, and then it starts to decrease again. That means that I can only run such distances once every 5 days, once every 5 or 6 days. Otherwise, my body wears out. And I couldn't run that long all at once. For 2.5 years, I was increasing the distance because I realized that I really needed it for my life. I started with 500 meters. I couldn't run any farther than that. I was gasping for breath. In the same way, 2.5 days of fasting completely cleanses the subtle energy body and prolongs life. In the same way, 1.5 hours of a static exercise prolongs life. There are 3 types of aging that time brings to a person. The first type of aging is called tension in the body. There are 2 types of tension. One type restricts a person's movement, while the other causes pain in the joints, spine, intestines, and head. That means that all types of pain are also tension, and mental disorders are also tension. There are 3 stages of increasing this tension. The first stage is simply stiffness and some minor aches. The second stage includes chronic diseases such as polyarthritis, gastritis, or rather stomach spasms, headaches, and so on. And the third stage is stroke, heart attack, and schizophrenia. This is the terminal stage of development of this tension. That means that time, through tension, takes a person's life in this way. If there is already a mental illness, even in a child, it means the third stage of tension. Cerebral palsy, autism, these are already close to the third stage of tension. And tension can only be relieved in 2 ways. This is prolonged continuous movement, calm and smooth, and a prolonged continuous stationary position of the body. You should do it in a good mood, because without a good mood, a person cannot absorb the force that overcomes tension. This force is found in nature. Is it clear? For example, you might say, I have polyarthritis, I have spine problems, I have headaches, I have spasms, I have a post-stroke condition, I have this or that. All of this can only be treated with prolonged continuous movement and prolonged stationary position of the body. Because these 2 actions give the body the strength to overcome this type of time's influence. The second type of time's influence increases heat in the body. This means inflammatory diseases, which at the second stage turn into stomach ulcers and chronic inflammations. And at the third stage, this heat turns into rheumatism, tuberculosis, non-specific ulcerative colitis, and so on. Diseases that are, as they say, systemic diseases of the body, or the most severe inflammations in the body. All of this is the third stage of heat's impact. Heat is treated with static exercises and fasting. These two types of healing practices remove the heat from the body. The person cools down. Greens also help. Green food removes heat from the body. For example, if a person has diabetes, that is heat in the body. Green food, static exercises, and water fasting remove the heat from the body and extend the life of a person with diabetes. Asthma is also heat in the body. Allergies, skin diseases, all of this is heat in the body. And the third type of aging is when a person accumulates toxins, has a sore throat. Some people have excess weight, some people have toxins. It's the same thing. At the second stage, it becomes a benign tumor, and at the third, a malignant one. All of this can be overcome through fasting and prolonged continuous movement. You see, three types of healing practices defeat three types of human aging, but they work in pairs. For example, tumors are defeated by prolonged continuous movement and fasting. Tension is addressed through prolonged continuous movement plus static exercises. Heat is treated with static exercises plus fasting. You see, three types of healing practices defeat three types of aging of the body, the cyclical aging of the body. And that is what most often causes people to die. Now you will ask me, so who will live a long life, Dr. Torsunov? And the person who will live a long life is the one who wants to do these healing practices, despite wanting to sleep, lie on a couch, and having no time to run at all. You, Dr. Torsunov, have plenty of time, but I have no time to run. But you always have time to go on dates. You have time to watch TV. But there's no time for running because there's no knowledge. And that's all there is to it. So a person who told themselves, or was told by a doctor, let's say they came to a doctor, and the doctor said, you can no longer walk much, your joints are bad, and you will not be able to heal them. You'll have this condition for the rest of your life. You have to live on medications. Walk slowly. Just keep walking slowly until you can no longer control your bodily functions. This person will not help you. They don't know what health is or what it means to overcome one's fate. If a person's joints are diseased, one must walk slowly for a very long time until one can start walking fast. This is the way to overcome joint disease, and one must also keep the stationary position of the body for a long time until the disease goes away. Two types of healing practices are meant to overcome all joint problems, all headaches, and everything else. Don't think that there is something else. Everything else just helps. For example, if you've been recommended some herbs, leeches, acupuncture, stones, homeopathy, everything you could ever learn about treatment, all of it simply balances the energy in the body. And to gain the energy needed to overcome one's fate, one must do these three types of healing practices. And if you don't have this energy, these medications won't help you. All of that will simply be useless. We started treating people and noticed that at some point our treatment stops working. People get overloaded from it, and we later understood why, because a person lacks these three things. Their energy runs out from the treatment, and that's it. And a person cannot continue their healing until they replenish it. We have learned about fate's impact on the body. Now let's move on to fate's impact on the mind. It also has two types of aging. The first type of aging. A small child experiences few negative events per unit of time, while an adult experiences far, far more. This is what the aging of the subtle energy body looks like. That means that with each passing unit of time, life bears down on a person more and more as they age. That is why elderly people start to grumble constantly. Why do they grumble? Because they can no longer withstand this influence of time. And why is all of this necessary? Because the human mind is meant for self-improvement. If a person grows as an individual, they are able to mentally process all these stages of increasing life difficulties that come with age. A person is capable of overcoming it. Therefore, the older a person gets, the more they should pray and wish happiness to everyone. These are practices for the mind, you see. There are healing practices for the body that prolong life, and there are practices for the mind that make a person more self-aware so that they don't become senile in old age. Why do people develop dementia? Because this heavy fate accumulates, and the mind can no longer cope with it. It's not like cholesterol has built up, you see. Cholesterol comes after all of this. When the subtle energy body does not move normally, all illnesses arise from this because the subtle energy body controls health. It controls both mental and physical health. And with each passing year, more and more difficulties arise. And if a person does not forgive, does not bring happiness to other people, that is, forgiveness, caring for others, depriving oneself of something. Prayer, these are the natural ways to cleanse the subtle energy body of life's hardships. If a person does not engage in these practices but simply works and lives as usual, then without a doubt their mind becomes more and more strained. And then further on, the following conditions develop: depression or some psychopathic disorders, insomnia, overwhelming resentment, stress, intense emotionality, loss of self-control. All of this means that a person can no longer overcome their fate. A person is no longer capable of doing this unless one starts living the right way. And this means that the purpose of human life is to learn how to live right. Not to learn how to earn a good salary, not to learn how to raise children, not an apartment, not a house, but to learn how to live the right way. Life will make you do it. There are also cyclical influences of fate on the mind, cyclical influences. For example, you think, I don't love my husband anymore. This is a cyclical influence. People think all of this is permanent. And then a woman leaves her husband, she thinks, I don't love him. She thinks it's forever, so she leaves her husband. 6 months pass and her love for him returns. And he's already with another woman. She thinks, damn, looks like I'm out of luck. Luck has nothing to do with it. You simply don't know how fate works. Today I don't love my husband, tomorrow I love him again. This is how fate works. You shouldn't believe that, you see. This is incorrect thinking. You may think, oh, my feelings for him have grown cold over the last 2 years. Raise your hand. Who sent me this thought? It's all coming to an end. The coldness is already gone now. That means a different period has already begun. Have you left him already? Not yet? Lucky you. In a month, things will warm up again. Things are already warming up, already better than 6 months ago. 6 months. My dears, it is good to know. It's very good to know what awaits you. Only happiness awaits you all. Only happiness and victory over your own fate. Because you want to grow. You are unique people of this city, and only happiness awaits you. Raise your hand if you have already become happier than you were a year ago. You will become even happier and even infinitely much happier. You don't even realize how much happier you will all be. You can't even imagine. Because you have chosen the right path in life. That's what awaits us, you see. There's no need to believe anything else. You are the masters of your own fate. You are the masters of your own fate. Your horoscope is your future victory over fate. That's it. There are no more horoscopes for your life. Just understand that you need to keep growing and moving forward. Don't give up. There are several ways to break down. The first way, a person gets caught up and swept away and stops developing. It means either great suffering or great happiness. This is the first way to destroy a person's fate. When great suffering or great happiness comes, at some point, intense happiness sweeps you away. At some point, intense suffering sweeps you away. And the second way a person destroys their own fate is through insults. Do not insult your homeland. Do not insult your elders. Do not insult anyone's faith. Do not insult any person who behaves incorrectly in life. Because any insults destroy a person's life. Because in doing so, we are taking on the role of God. We act like God. We say, well, what is this? If I were in your place, I would... Very well, says God. Very well, we will put you in your place. Don't worry. Let's see what happens to you next. You see, there are 3 ways to destroy what I have just promised you. Did you remember that? If there is too much happiness, do not retreat, move forward. Too much suffering, do not retreat and never insult anyone. Do not read gossip about anyone on the internet. Remember, growth means seeing more and more purity, not more and more filth. As some people say, I came to this spiritual practice and now I see all the filth here. It means they just wasted time. So let's move forward. Let's continue our study. So what is fate? Fate is simply a learning process. That means that a person, having all these influences of time on the physical body and the subtle energy body, simply needs all of this in order to become stronger and happier in the end. There is no other purpose to all of this. But fate at the same time follows a completely predictable pattern. And fate has certain laws that govern how it operates. Fate resonates right here in our hearts. It sounds not only for us but also for other people. Fate works through memory. For example, one woman says, Dr. Torsunov, I pray and pray, I think about God and forget about myself, and then suddenly, bam, and some mundane thought surfaces in the heart. I'm explaining that this is not a mundane matter. Fate is simply forcing you to think about yourself. It intrudes upon your prayer, and your goal is to make yourself think about God. But it intrudes, and you have to return your thoughts to God. And this is called victory over fate. It resides in memory. If a person constantly tries to remember God, but their fate forces them to think about something else, then this is the struggle for their own happiness. You need to switch your focus, you see? You might say, I'm not thinking about myself, I'm thinking about my son. Remember, thinking about your son is the same as thinking about yourself, because you seek happiness through your son, and that is your happiness. A woman's life revolves around the fate of her loved ones. Her life doesn't revolve around her own fate. Therefore, you should not even think about your son, you should think about God, and then your son will feel better. It is very important to know that when a person thinks about God, they're filled with the strength to overcome their fate. And God Himself distributes this energy along all our connections as He sees fit. He knows how much to give to whom, and we do not. So don't interfere there, don't think about anyone. I want to help my son. Maybe there's something else you should be thinking about right now. Maybe something is more important. You don't know, so don't meddle in it. Think about God, fill yourself with this spiritual strength, and God will distribute it all on His own. And you will even find out how. Because when you pray, you will see that your son seems to feel better. You will feel in your heart that it is easier for you to think about him. This means that you are overcoming his fate. All of this happens in memory. For example, if you prayed for your child and thought of them, you feel as though things should be a little easier for them. Not that things have already gotten easier, but you feel that they should be easier. This means that you have begun to go through the first stage of overcoming your fate. The first stage is found in memory. So there are 3 stages of approaching one's fate and 3 stages of overcoming one's fate. The first stage of approaching means, I no longer believe that the other person is to blame. That means that I will soon be approaching victory over my fate. And right now I am not overcoming my fate. For example, a husband has left. I believe he is to blame for everything in my life. And that is why I am lonely and unhappy. That means that fate has overpowered me. What does fate do? It forces us to think that someone else is to blame for suffering that comes in life. I live in the wrong country, and that's why I suffer. This means that fate has overpowered you. You are not suffering because you live in the wrong country. You are living in exactly the right country for you. You simply don't know yet that you need to accept this fate, not reject it. You don't know about this yet. And when you accept it, you will prosper right here, in this country. When a person overcomes their fate, wherever they may be, and in whatever circumstances, they always experience happiness, even in places where no one around them experiences happiness. They will be happy regardless because they have overcome their fate. And how will it happen? God will take care of it. Moreover, I will tell you this, if you pray for your country, you will see how it develops, and everything connected to you, all your relationships, they will begin to develop as well. And all other people will remain in their current situation. Because you have your own individual fate in this country. If you pray for your country, then the country gives you the opportunity for growth despite the fact that a generally bad period is underway. But in your country, the bad period is coming to an end. I repeat once again that a good period has begun, and development is underway. You just can't see it yet. At first it is hidden from sight, but then it becomes obvious. So all those who are leaving right now say, heading to the west, a bad period is beginning there. There are unhappy people, of course. Unhappy people. They think that they need to leave, and then things will get easier. Look at how their thinking works. Fate always operates in waves. When you've hit rock bottom, that means things will only get better from here. A person thinks, I've had enough. I can't endure anymore. Let's move somewhere. And where do they go? Where things are at their peak. That means things will get worse. They keep staying in that country, while things keep getting worse and worse for them and hit rock bottom. And they think it's time to get out of here. But things will now get better in this country. And where does a person go? Where things are already at their peak, it means they will get worse. And so where does a person end up living all the time? A country in decline. What a wonderful life. You just need to wait a little. And that's it. As the Chinese say, if you don't know how to defeat your enemy, just wait a little while until their corpse floats past you down the river. Because if a person is hostile toward everyone, they will find someone to fight with, and someone who will beat them. Why bother with that? If a person is an enemy, they behave badly. Why bother with that? Just wait a little. Someone else will deal with them. And that's all. The same goes for life in this country. There is an upswing happening right now. It's your life, and you will see for yourself. That is why we are studying this topic now. You see, this is your life, and you will have to face it. I'm not against those who leave. That's also fine. I'm simply talking about how fate works. Sometimes individually a person will be better off where there is a general decline. So let's move on. You see, fate is like a road along which a person walks. There are three ways of moving. Movement in degradation means, I just want happiness. To hell with your fate. Why should I listen to you? You're just spouting nonsense here. I just need to be happy, you understand? I like to drink. I drink. A little alcohol is beneficial. Many dissertations have been written about it. I enjoy having sex. I do it. And with whom? None of your business. Maybe you have impotence. That's why you say sex is only allowed with one's own wife. This is called living in degradation. When a person lives in degradation, they remain in this energy layer, crawling along their fate. You see, there's a road, but one crawls along it because one has no desire to know what the purpose of human life is. Such a person decided for themselves what they live for. A person does not study, does not look at the examples of others, does not study the scriptures. They simply want to live however they want, and that's it. They say, don't tell me how to live. This is the life of degradation. In this case, there is no need to make a horoscope for this person because the horoscope will describe everything in a more favorable light than reality actually is. That means that their own horoscope is simply a fantasy. Their own horoscope, because their life will be harder. People who live in degradation have their intelligence deteriorate. They slide into the abyss of their fate. These people degrade. You see, fate is not to blame. Degradation is not fate. Fate is the hardships of life. If a person becomes an alcoholic, if a person ends up in prison, that is not fate. It means that one is not coping with one's fate. This means that a person has the wrong lifestyle, incorrect thinking, and the wrong goals in life. For example, I have an acquaintance whose fate also had an impact on him. Let me pat myself on the back a little first. Forgive me for that. I told him, don't drive, you'll kill someone. He started driving and killed a child. He didn't mean to. A girl ran out on the road. He didn't have time to swerve. She ran under the wheels and the little girl died instantly. And then there was a trial. He was sentenced to 4 years. A very good person. Well, his parents paid to have the case buried. In short, he started helping me give lectures. He was my assistant. We traveled together for several years. But fate, it always catches up with a person. And he went to his hometown before our trip to holy places in India. He went to renew his foreign passport in order to get a visa, and went to the store to buy bread. By complete coincidence, his hat and clothing looked just like those of a dangerous criminal the police were searching for. They stopped him on the street and said, "Your documents." And he happened to have his passport with him. Can you imagine? It turned out that the lawyer who had been covering up all these cases, that prosecutor, had been jailed for taking bribes. All the cases he had buried were reopened and placed under a conditional search warrant. That means that if he hadn't shown up, they wouldn't have been looking for him. But here he showed up himself, they ran his information, and it turned out he was on the wanted list. And they arrested him right away. He didn't even get to go home. They arrested him right then and there and took him away. They gave him 4 years. So he went to teach criminals about a healthy lifestyle, because he had been studying the lectures and helping me. In prison, he began praying constantly, living righteously, waking up early, and so on. Everyone nicknamed him the Holy One. And people started coming to him for advice on how to live, because it was clear what an extraordinary person he was. At first, he started consulting people all day long. Then the prison guards asked him to give a lecture on a healthy lifestyle for everyone. He gave this lecture to the prisoners, and they gained a great respect for him because he simply spoke with kindness. And everyone began to respect him. And by a general vote, he was transferred to the medical unit. It was a really great place. Then his sentence was immediately cut in half. So with the first amnesty, he had 2 years left, and then they cut it in half again when the next amnesty came, leaving him only 1 year of imprisonment. He was released from prison early, having served only 8 months. All this time I was in India studying the scriptures. When it was time for me to give lectures, he was released from prison and came to me because I really needed him. So I was in India studying the scriptures while he was in prison. We continued traveling together after that. That was 20 years ago. That means that the man was supposed to serve 4 years. But since he lived righteously, out of those 4 years, only 8 months remained. And that's all. This is how fate works. Don't think that fate means you will be tormented to the very end. Fate retreats before the person who lives righteously. Understand this. I know many cases, truly remarkable ones. 20 years ago, a woman came up to me and said, "My situation is such that I'm either going to be killed or thrown in prison. I have 2 options. What would you advise me to do?" I said, "Let's first find out what's going on." She said, "I borrowed a large sum of money from a very influential person. I was sure that everything would work out for me, but my business fell apart, and that's just how it happened. This person now set a condition, either pay back the money, or I will have you put in prison." And she said, "I don't know what to do." I said, "You need to pray." She said, "What should I even pray for? There are only 2 options." I said, "We'll pray about it. Maybe there's a 3rd option." And she began to pray. And she prayed and prayed for a long time. She prayed for 3 weeks, then came to me and said, "God told me a solution and I want to consult with you about it." And she told me that she felt in her heart that she needed to go to this person and say these words to him, "I propose to you that I become your manager," because they were in the same line of business. "I will be your manager and work for you. And leave me just a little to live on, and everything else I earn, you take for yourself, and this way I'll pay off this debt." I said, "God told you this, and so it shall be." She said, "Do you think he'll agree?" I said, 100% he will agree. That's for sure. And she said, "I'm not even comfortable approaching him." And I told her, as my warrant officer used to say in the army, that the only thing that's uncomfortable is sleeping on the ceiling, because the blanket falls off the ceiling. And she went to him, and he agreed. But the most interesting thing was that when I came to that city next time, she approached me. This happened 2 years later. And she told me that this man had bought her an apartment, forgiven all her debts, and said, "Work for me. Don't go anywhere." He said, "I will protect you through all of life's hardships," because she had significantly boosted his business. You see how a person's fate turned around simply because she prayed to God. Another case happened at the festival this year. People like that don't usually come to our festival, but this guy showed up, you know. At first I thought he was from the federal security. Well, sometimes such guys come to the festival. You can spot them right away. I thought, here's another one who came from the federal security, checking things out. Well, I wished him happiness, and everything was fine. But he turned out not to be from the federal security. But this high-ranking official came up to me after the lecture and said, "I'm in a serious situation. They're putting me in prison." And as we began to look into it, it turned out that he had made a serious mistake in his life, which he had not understood. The mistake was that he believed the truth he knew about how to do everything correctly was more important than the person. And, to put it in plain terms, he started pushing that person out of his position because he was managing things incorrectly. And that was indeed the case. I explained to him that God places a person in a position, and there is no need to, well, destroy him. This is a sin. It is better to pray for him, helping him to correct himself. Because when we destroy those in senior positions of authority, everything around us collapses. And he said, indeed, if I had done that, the entire business could have suffered. In short, they decided to put this man in prison. Well, you know, if very influential people want to put someone in prison, they will. And that's exactly what he told me. That's the situation. I explained to him. Do you understand what the sin is? You need to act differently. You cannot put the truth above the person. A person is more important than the truth. You need to help the person, not push your own truth. Otherwise, revolutions alone only destroy people's lives. And he understood everything. And he began to pray to God, and he says, I'm praying, but what's the point? They've already decided to put me in prison. I say, just pray, and we began to read a prayer together. For an hour we prayed aloud together. The entire festival joined in prayer. And an hour later, he comes running up to me and says, I feel a lightness in my heart, just like you said. It feels like nothing bad is going to happen. I say, now wait for a phone call. He says, from whom? I say, from those people. Well, they should call me really soon. And what should I say to them? You need to tell the whole truth, that I repented, that I understood what my mistake was, and that I want to continue working under your authority. He smiles and says, Dr. Torsunov, you are a good person. But these people, he says, they don't believe in fairy tales. He says, I can do that, of course, but it seems ridiculous to me. I would never have gone along with words like that. I say, just do it, that's all. He says, all right, but I really didn't want to humiliate myself. They called him and he said those words. And then there was a moment of silence on the line. And then they said to him, well, we won't put you in prison. Go back to work. Come back and get to work. And so he avoided prison and kept his position. Can you imagine? It happened simply because he prayed. But it was very hard for him to understand that it happened precisely because of this. Because it is very difficult to connect such things with one another at first, when a person has no experience. So look, the first stage of approaching victory is when you think, I do not believe that they are to blame for my fate. I feel that my fate is to blame. The second stage of approaching victory over fate is when you think, it is not my fate that is to blame, but I am to blame. I am the one to blame for the fact that I live here, that I have such a government, that everything happens the way it does. By the way, I don't think you have a bad government. I'm just conveying your opinion, so to speak. I believe that you actually have a great government given the situation the country is currently in. It is handling the pressure, and the country is slowly beginning to develop. This is my personal opinion. You can give me 1,000 arguments against it. And I'm telling you how I feel. That's all. Well, you have your own fate. You feel it differently. Things look different from the outside. The third stage of approaching victory over fate is when you think, it's not my fate that is to blame, it's not me that is to blame, but everything will be fine. And a person cannot achieve all three of these stages of approaching victory over fate by their own efforts alone. Try right now to simply accept your life, where you live and how you live. Just like that, boom, and you've accepted it. Or on the contrary, boom, you haven't accepted it. Why? Because there is no strength. This is called the strength of the soul. You see, these strengths of the soul come from holiness. There are three types of energy for overcoming one's fate. The first type of energy is when a person performs healing practices for the body. Then the forces of nature, which give health to a person, charge our batteries, the batteries of our fate. The elements of nature enter us. The sun gives a person energy, a good immune system, good digestion, good absorption of nutrients, good eyesight, and so on. The earth gives a person calmness, good sleep, and healthy hormonal functions for women. The earth also eliminates all inflammatory processes. Fresh air provides attention span, good tone, good work ability, a strong body, strong muscles, a good figure, and so on. Water gives a person harmony, kindness, a good metabolism, and the ability to connect with other people, embrace nature, and so on. All of these are the energies that we receive as a result of interaction with nature. So, for example, if I stay in the sun, I receive the energy of the sun. To receive the energy of the sun, you need to move in the sunlight and wish happiness to everyone. Only then will it enter you. But if you simply turned your backside to it, it doesn't like that. Because you see, these higher energies also have a sense of propriety. That is why ancient people knew, you should not turn your backside to the sun, you should not do that. Do not disrespect the sun, even if you say it's not alive. You still shouldn't turn your backside toward it. Respect this energy of joy that comes to you. I understand you want the joy to enter there, right? It is better to let it enter your heart. So all these forces of nature fill a person with health. In the same way people fill a person with social strength. Do you understand that people fill a person with social strength? If you cannot get married, it is people who can bring you marriage. But you need to care for all of them. When a woman cares for people and forgets about herself, she becomes more and more beautiful. And this is a different kind of beauty. It's not like you can just put on makeup. This attracts men, that's true, that's true. But this type of beauty will only intensify their sexual desire, not their desire to marry a woman. When a woman cares more and more about all people around her, she develops a different kind of beauty, one that makes men want to marry her. And in the same way, when a man loves work, he simply enjoys working somewhere. He simply works, forgetting that he needs money. He needs money. Nobody can forget about it, but for him it takes a back seat. The most important thing for him is to do something for everyone. From that moment on, he has a good chance of finding himself a good job. You see how it works? People become satisfied with his work. And likewise, those employers who are looking for such people, they dream of finding exactly these kinds of people. Now, how many of you provide jobs to people? Raise your hand. I predict that you dream of finding people who want to work exactly the way you like. Is that right or not? Is that right? Yes, so let all the rest of you become such people. And you will immediately find work, because everyone dreams of finding a person who wants to work like that. Now, if you want to climb the social ladder, know this: all bosses, all those in senior positions dream of finding a loyal person they can rely on. And they will see this loyalty in your eyes. They will see that you see purity and the will of God in your seniors. Your superiors, if they see that you recognize God's will in them, then they will assign you to where you need to be, because that is how the energies of God work. A person who puts in a certain amount of effort for someone else will receive the result of that effort. And all types of social happiness, namely fame, money, marriage, even children, all these forms of social happiness are given by people. God acts through people. That means it is not the people themselves, it is God acting through them. And in the same way, all forms of defeating bad fate, namely healing from cancer, loneliness, and so on and so forth, unemployment, poverty, all these forms of life's hardships are overcome through direct contact with God in the form of faith and service to Him. Your fate begins to soften just like bread softens in water. If it is stale like a stone, you can't chew it. But if you put it in water, it becomes soft, and you can eat it without any problem. In the same way, fate is hard as a stone. When a person prays, it softens and softens until it can be consumed without any trouble. So, when you felt that everything would be all right, it means that prayer has already brought you to the beginning of overcoming your fate. And there will be 3 more stages. The first stage is not just that everything is fine, but that your heart feels light. One feels lightness in the heart. You see, a person's heart feels light. For example, a man has left a woman. She says, "Dr. Torsunov, my heart feels light." Not that she has already moved on to someone else. No, she is getting her man back, but she feels lightness in her heart. Raise your hand if this has happened to you. This is called the first stage of overcoming fate, my dears. 2 more remain. Let's move on. Even though your heart feels light, the man hasn't come back. Why? Because this is only the first stage of overcoming bad fate. The change has not yet happened in him, but the change has happened in you. Then, as a person continues to pray, the second stage begins. It is a long one, and it takes place between the 2 of you. That means that your heart has been filled with happiness and you feel at ease. The thread between you 2 is filled with vile energy that destroyed you. And so this thread is being cleansed between you 2. The thread will either tie itself or be cleansed. This is where the second stage of overcoming fate begins. And this means that you now have the opportunity to communicate with him. So it starts from here, but he's not there yet. And you call him, "How are you?" He says, I don't know. "Are you doing okay?" He says, "Okay." That means that you slowly start to become friends with him again. And gradually it becomes cleaner and cleaner. Then suddenly he says, "Let's just be friends." Just friends. And you say, "Sure," even though he is already living with another woman and cheating on you every day. You found the strength to be friends with him. Can you imagine this miracle? Before, you simply couldn't even listen to that person. You were shaking because he betrayed you. But now you can talk to him about the weather, about the kids, calmly and kindly. Raise your hand if this has happened to you. This is the second stage of overcoming fate. The third stage is as follows. At the third stage, unexpectedly, changes begin in this person's heart, and he tells you, "You know, I was actually a fool when I left you, but I'm still going to live with her now." Everything is still ahead. You should continue to pray. Don't listen to what he says. He doesn't know about his own future, so you continue to pray. His new woman doesn't know about the future either. She also says something to him. Only you know the future because you know the 3 stages of overcoming bad fate. So you continue your prayer. I am telling you about these events, the sequence of them, because I have seen and heard this many times in my life. The next sequence is as follows. He doesn't just become friends with you, his feelings for the children begin to awaken. If you have children, and the desire to take care of you and children awakens in him, he says, "Let me do this for the kids, do that for you," and so on and so forth. You say, "Sure, I don't mind." And indeed, you are fine with it at that time. And all this time you know that God has punished you for your problems. And that is why everything feels so easy and calm with him, because this is your fate, not his. So what happens next? He says, "Can I come to you for advice?" "I have a difficulty with my wife. Since we are friends, I want to ask for advice. This is your next test." Since we are friends, you are actually a very wise woman, I can see that. So explain to me what to do. I don't know what to do in this situation. And you honestly explain to him trying to preserve his relationship. But it is impossible to preserve what is falling apart, because God keeps you together with him, not her with him. He decided all of this on his own, and not according to God's will. Well, in that case, doing things my way always leaves you with nothing, you see? Such is the law. And sooner or later he says, listen, let me stay at your place for the night. It's just completely awful over there. And it's so good here, so calm, just like home. And after that, he no longer wants to go back. And so he stays. And as for his conscience and everything else, that comes later, you see, not now. Right now, he is simply coming back. Raise your hand if your husband came back through prayer like that. 1, 2, 3. Who else? And who has almost had him come back? That's the third stage in progress. He started showing more care and began to be friendly, right? This is the third stage of overcoming bad fate. Get ready. You see, you are overcoming your fate. It doesn't matter to you whether he got married or not, because fate depends not on a man, but on God. You simply need to go through all the stages. Which stage are you at right now? If you think, I don't love him, he's a bad person. This means that you first need to overcome this and accept your fate, you see? And you need to go through all 3 stages first. You pray, and then you'll realize he is a good person. It's my fate that is to blame. It's me who did something wrong. You see, you need to go through all of this from the beginning. Pray anyway. Whether you want to or not, you need to overcome your fate. Because women like you ask me, Dr. Torsunov, when will God send me a man? I left my husband, and he is suffering. When will God give me a man? I say, you know, God has plenty of men. But they are all his beloved ones. And so he won't just go around ruining men's lives for no reason. You should make amends and pray, you see. And God himself will decide whether to bring your man back to you or to give you a different one on a trial basis. You shouldn't be making decisions for him, otherwise you'll end up alone. It is God who decides everything. You say, I don't want such a fate, but no one is asking us. Did we give birth to ourselves or what? No, we were given life. And that's all there is to it. That's how it is here. Look at how wonderful this is. Nobody asked us. It's the same with giving you a husband. Do you think you found him yourself? No, God gave him to you. You see? You weren't looking for him, he imposed himself on you. Right? Yes. You didn't want him. He imposed himself and talked you into it. Right? It was God acting through his heart, and he is still waiting for you, right? You felt at ease back then. Well, of course, you wanted him to leave you alone. I know you don't wish any harm, but I want to explain to you that he is not to blame for everything. You need to make amends. Make amends, otherwise you will end up in his shoes. You will be the one imposing yourself on someone, he will use you and then leave you. Is that what you want or not? You think it doesn't happen a second time? You need to make amends. Do you know how many times we've been through this already? Of course, I'm not against you, everything is fine. Our goal is God, my dears. Our goal is God, not a person, not marriage. These are all just gifts, just gifts. Our goal is the one who gives these gifts. We must cast aside the stinginess of our hearts. We must set aside the desire to live for ourselves and start living for God. This stinginess shows itself in the fact that we're always needing something He doesn't give us. We constantly think about ourselves. This constant thinking about ourselves means that we are simply walking the path of our fate and cannot overcome it. A person can only overcome their fate when they have distracted themselves from it. And when a person stops being consumed by their fate, they begin to live a normal life. First, a person begins to notice nature, the birds, the beauty of this world, because a person distracted themselves from their fate. Then one begins to see the kindness of people, and then one begins to see God and His power. These are the 3 stages of breaking free from one's fate. You need to go through all 3 stages. The second type of people, they walk the path of fate. They don't crawl like those who are in degradation and who do not want to live by God's laws, but these people walk the path of fate. But at the same time, they keep their eyes on the ground. They are very strongly chained to their fate, to their children, to their work, to their difficulties, and cannot be distracted from it for even a second. And when they come up against an obstacle, they run straight into it and end up in a state of stress because they don't know what to do with it. People who only look down at their feet have no option to overcome their fate. That is why they suffer greatly and worry when obstacles arise. And so these people have one philosophy, luck. This philosophy is called luck. They simply want luck in this life, so that this obstacle never comes their way. Because there is laziness of the soul in their hearts, they do not want to work on their fate. So when obstacles come, they tremble and say, "Help me, Lord, help me. Someone grant me the grace to overcome this." But this obstacle arose precisely because you yourself must overcome it. And you must know how to do it. You need to understand that there are three ways to overcome fate. The first method is directed at the body. If this obstacle is an illness, there is no way around it. You will have to take care of your body. If this obstacle is related to your social life, then you will have to learn to love people specifically in the area where you face the obstacle. And if this obstacle is connected to your spiritual life, you will have to learn how to pray. But a person must always know that all types of knowledge that come into this world come through service to God. Therefore, the most important thing we need to do remains unchanged. A person must learn to read the scriptures. This is service to God. Being grateful to one's elders for the knowledge one has received is service to God. A person must learn to go to the temple and help there in whatever way they can. This is service to God. A person must learn to listen to those who pray and to pray with them. This is service to God. A person must learn to believe in holy water, to believe in holy land, to believe in holy people. One must learn to believe in sacred icons. One must learn to attend spiritual events. This is all service to God because God likes it. God is a person and He likes this. God, like the sun, is a great personality. Not like us. We are tiny sparks. If a spark flies away from fate, from God, fate means flying away from God. A spark flies away from the sun and loses itself, fading, because it burns out. We fly toward our own worries, toward our own concerns. You may say, "I have no time to go to the temple, I have so many things to do." Keep fading away then. A person flies away from the sun and fades out. Follow the sun, though the path be unknown. Go, my friends, always follow the path of goodness. It turns out the path of goodness means turning back. Your fate is dragging you along. Having no time means fate is dragging you along. If you think you have no time, that means your fate is dragging you along. And now, despite having no time, turn around and go back toward the sun. Leave behind your worries, your falls, and your rises. Understand that this life is not a child's game. And if your friends are in trouble, don't wait for a miracle. Help them. Always walk the path of goodness. The path of goodness means turning away from yourself. First, at least for the sake of a friend, at least for the sake of a poor person, at least for the sake of someone. Distract from yourself and begin to do what you don't need, but what someone else needs. From this moment, the victory over fate begins. Follow the sun. God is pleased that you live this way. And as a result, an exchange takes place. The spark grows brighter, and the sun in his life, in her life, becomes stronger. And the person grows, becoming stronger and stronger. Their fate becomes a blessing for them. How can you tell that you have set out on the right path? A person says, "Thank you, Lord, for sending me this trial. I became stronger," just like the man who spoke with me today said. "Thank you, Lord, for sending me this trial. I have become stronger." Which of you has felt this in your life? That means you are on the right path. That's it. But when a person begins to believe in God, their troubles, well, so to speak, what falls upon them, becomes a blessing for them. Whatever befalls a person in life turns out to be a blessing for them, and their burden becomes light. Did you get that? When will your fate become good? When you accept what life throws at you. And that is why Jesus Christ showed everyone, "Accept your cross." His cross was great, while all of ours are small. And yet we must accept it, because if a person does not accept their cross, does not accept their fate, their country, their family, their husband, their children, they cannot accept their fate. That is why I am telling you this, even though you do not want to listen to me. Accept your husband. It doesn't matter whether you will live with him or not. If you do not accept him, you will not be able to move forward on your life's path correctly. Accept him because he is your fate. If God returns him to you, you must be willing to accept that. Most likely it won't happen because he will not torment you. But if you accept him, then you will be able to overcome your fate. Because the burden of life becomes a blessing, and this burden becomes light for the one who has understood. I believe, the person says. And then one understands that the burden of life is a blessing. This is a blessing for the person, because the character is very strong, very stubborn, very capricious, and therefore it is a blessing. And so you meet a person who is willing to put up with all of this and accept it, and another person would not agree. And therefore you must accept the one whom God has given you. He gives the one who can put up with me, even if I don't like that person. Try to understand this. So what is the purpose of human life? What is the fate of the present? What is our fate? You don't need to listen to all those astrologers or anyone else like that. A person's fate lies in only one thing. Only in one thing. And the answer is very simple. Accept your fate. That is the first thing. And what has been understood with great difficulty, that is the most important thing in your life. That is more precious. You understood something with great difficulty, that is what you lived your life for, because in the next life this will not happen again. What is understood with great difficulty, then that is your true destiny. Everything else is just tests. A person's fate is not a horoscope. A person's fate is what has been understood through great difficulty. Therefore, truly strive toward your destiny. Try to understand what needs to be understood. And this will be understood only with great difficulty, because it is not easy to understand the true lessons of a person's real life. It is not easy to understand that you need not to search for something new, but to accept the old. Because without this acceptance, you will not be able to move forward in your life. You won't be able to. That is what must be understood with great difficulty. This is the labor of the soul. This is not just any labor like, say, chopping cucumbers or earning money, you see. This is the labor of the soul. But the soul is lazy. It doesn't want to accept this. The soul says, give me something else. I cannot accept this. Because only the divine power of faith and prayer can give a person the ability to accept their burden. This is a very difficult task, practically impossible to accomplish. So what types of fate are there? A person's fate can be easy, moderate, heavy, and unbearable. You may think, what did I pay money for? I know all of this. Now let me tell you something else. You can laugh now. When a person has an easy fate, God thinks it would have been better if they had never been born. People think, come on, just give me an easy fate, please. Oh, Dr. Torsunov, please help me have an easy fate. You see, an easy fate means no growth. It's a curse. The person enjoys life, they're having a great time. Money just falls into one's lap. A person can buy a submarine, or even build a ship, so to speak, or even several submarines. And everything is great, basically. So what's the problem, guys? Well, an easy fate. You see? One guy drove an old cheap car, the car flipped over, and he got out saying, I spent my whole life saving up for this car, and now it's wrecked. That's it. And he just sits there clutching his heart. The second guy was driving a BMW and flipped over in that same pothole, so he gets out and goes, so, the repairs are going to cost a lot. He started thinking, scratching his head. The third one, in short, was driving a Jeep, flipped over several times. He jumped out and said, guys, did you see that? Did you see those splashes? Now, the one who was in the old cheap car, he has the best fate, because he will definitely come to God, you see. And God, He specifically gave him such a fate. You see, there are two types of attitudes toward fate. This attitude, my dears, this humane approach will not change. Everything I'm telling you now, I'm saying against my own will. But this is what needs to be said. You see, I also want things to be easier. All people want this. But in reality, God wants something entirely different. Because when a person has a difficult fate, that person grows from it. And that is exactly what God wants, for us to grow and develop. And when things become the hardest, we think, when will this ever end? But God thinks, let it go on a little longer. Because this gives us the opportunity to grow, my dears. And that is precisely what our human life is meant for. And not so that everything would be awesome as we think. And therefore, the most difficult period in a person's life, God considers it to be the best period of that person's life. And we consider it the worst period, and we will not change that. We truly just want happiness and nothing else. This is a very foolish desire. Almost none of us want to suffer. But there is one holy woman who directly received contact with God, and she said to him, let these misfortunes repeat again and again, for again and again we will then be able to remember you. And to remember you means to be freed from all this nightmare and to enter into a spiritual reality where there is no suffering. Do you see what kind of woman she is? She says directly to God, let these misfortunes repeat again and again. Because everyone asks God for something different, but she says, no, this is what I want to ask for. I think that's a great prayer, just an excellent prayer. And this was about 12 years ago in my life. I sat down and repeated this prayer for about 6 months. Let these misfortunes repeat again and again. Let these misfortunes repeat again and again. I started reciting it, and everything was wonderful. And God thinks, can this really be true? So he pondered for about half a year. I kept asking, let these misfortunes repeat again and again, and he helped me. I had a year and a half of nightmares. It all switched off in my head. Everything that happened was wiped from my memory. I cannot bring myself to remember any of it, but I no longer pray like that. Don't try to make yourself out to be a saint. Don't show off in front of God. It is a fact that we cannot ask for misfortunes. We simply need to want things to be a little easier. That's a fact, and it's normal. But we need to understand that God simply has other plans. If you say, Dr. Torsunov, what's going on? Why me? If God is so merciful, why am I not getting any better? Because He has other plans for you. Because He wants you to truly become better, not what you want for yourself. That is the idea behind the different types of faith. A moderately difficult faith means more grace. A difficult faith means even more grace. And an unbearably difficult fate means the maximum grace that God can give a person. But none of us wants to wish this upon ourselves. But if we have seen that God has granted a person the greatest mercy and also given them the strength to cope with it, this means that in their next life, this person will be far greater than we can even imagine. You see, this is a springboard for this person to leap forward in a way we cannot. Therefore, do not judge what happens to a person or their fate. You see, if a person has the most difficult fate and manages to cope with it, that means they are the luckiest of all. But understanding this is very difficult, and so one need not even try. All the more reason not to recite these prayers. I don't recommend it. I tried it. Nothing good. But there are saints who do recite such prayers. But these are saints, you see, they have a different life. They are thousands of millions of times stronger than us. You see, faith is always a road, and it never veers off to the side. It is impossible to stray from your path, impossible to stray from your fate. It simply rises to the sky or descends into the ground. If a person degrades, their fate descends into the ground, and they become an animal already in this lifetime. You look just like a pig, they say. Someone looks like a pig already in this life. You're as stubborn as a mule. You're already starting to look like one. Why are you so dumb as a mule? Got it, right? The transformation of consciousness is taking place, and the result is already clear. Do you understand that I listed those animals for a reason? Think. Because in this life, a person already starts to resemble someone. And then one can logically understand what will happen next. It's not difficult, right? If a person in this life snaps at everyone just as a dog barks, woof, 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 woof. All right, that's it, get ready. Soon you'll be doing this quite legally, and no one will stop you. In a human body, you can be put in prison, fined, but in your next life, you can knock everyone down and bark at everyone as much as you want. Legally. And if you want to be a big dog, you can even be the president's dog. And you'll be able to bark at everyone legally, no problem, including the president. You're a dog after all. You have the right to bark at everyone. But in the human form of life, one should not engage in this. It's better to do something useful for people. So these are the only types of fate that exist. It is indeed a fact that there are people who have an easy fate. That is a curse. Sometimes it is of moderate severity. This is the ordinary life that all people have. There is such a thing as a difficult fate, but this is a special fate. There are two categories of people who have a difficult fate. Some of them have come from lower forms of life into a human body, and that is why they have a difficult fate, because they are not yet truly worthy of a human body, and so they are born with various deformities, and so on. Usually these people are very narrow-minded, with weak intellect and weak consciousness. And the second type of people who have a difficult fate, in their past life, they were deeply devoted to spiritual practice. They prayed and asked God, please, no material happiness for me in my next life. I only want to serve you and think of you. I don't need anything at all. And then God gives such a person what they asked for. He gives a difficult life, perhaps some physical deformities, but at the same time, this person has a very strong intelligence and a very pure consciousness. This means that this person, having worked through all of this, will receive the highest birth in their next life. We cannot even dream of where they will end up in their next life simply because they suffer for God. The most important thing for such a person is to accept their fate. This is very important. There are also some other variations. For example, a small child lived for a few years and passed away. The parents suffered terribly, thinking, what kind of punishment is this? But there was no punishment at all. This person simply fulfilled their small fate. In truth, this child had barely even lived. It simply wasn't meant for the child to live. And where does this child go? To heaven, because such a child is meant to enjoy themselves. But the parents, since they cannot feel their child, because they are deeply troubled by the fact that they have lost their happiness, they do not understand that the child has passed on to higher planets and has become their guardian angel. This child will now send God's grace to them for the rest of their lives simply because they gave to the child the opportunity to get rid of bad karma and go where one was meant to go. You see? But if these parents had calmed their minds, they would have felt God's grace from their child and would have been at peace. Well, of course, not exactly pleased in the usual sense, but they would be very grateful and would feel the purity emanating from that child and would feel God's grace. A man came up to me and said, Dr. Torsunov, I had a very pure and radiant family. I had 2 children and a wife. They all engaged in spiritual practice. In all my life, I have never known and do not know people who are pure and more decent. And don't think that I'm telling you this simply because I lost them. You see, it's not nostalgia. I truly have never in my life met people like them. We had a happy family, and one by one, all 3 of them passed away before my eyes. Now I have a question for you, Dr. Torsunov. What kind of misfortune is this? You say that when a person lives a righteous life, they receive happiness. Why did I receive such terrible suffering while living a righteous life? I prayed silently for a moment, and what God told me, hinted at in my heart, is exactly what I told him. I told him, in reality, all of your relatives have gone up to the higher planets. They are now experiencing immense happiness because they have worked off their bad fate here on this earth and are waiting for you there. And the time will come when you will reunite with them and you will all live together, dwelling in the greatest happiness. That was my answer to him. He looked at me. His gaze became very firm and strong. He said to me, I knew you would say this to me because I feel it myself. But I wanted to confirm it once more. That is why I asked you. His gaze shone with purity, and he rejoiced in his heart. This means that he accepted his fate and won. His fate was wonderful and will be wonderful. But if you think that you don't need such a wonderful fate, then you are not ready for it, and God did not plan such a fate for you. You see, He did not plan it. Every person receives only what they are able to bear. Do not think that if you now follow this path of overcoming your fate, God will burden you with these hardships right away. No. On the contrary, it will be easier. Why? Because God sends such hardships only to great people, and they don't whine about any of it. Therefore, do not be afraid that everything in your life will be bad and difficult just because you have embarked on the path of self-improvement. It will be the opposite. The more a person walks this path, the more their fate softens. There are certain stages to this softening. The first stage, this is called the stage of discovering and exploring a new world. A person feels that life has changed. One feels that this world is different, not what one used to think it was. And one begins to feel the beauty and depth of this world, and studies and studies and studies, and enjoys life. A person feels that their life has meaning through this learning. Raise your hand if you have reached this stage. The next stage of overcoming one's fate involves a person finding new friends. One finds many friends who are walking the same path and is happy to be friends with them. And such a person sees their new fate, their new life. Raise your hand if you are going through this stage. The next stage is when a person truly begins to understand what to do with their life and starts changing their activities. Their life takes a different turn and the person finds happiness in it. Who among you has reached this stage? The next stage consists of the fact that, after having found new purpose in life, a person deepens their victory over fate and as a result begins to improve their relationship with their loved one. And this is like a miracle because they never believed it was possible. And their relationship truly changes and becomes better. Even if that close person is an alcoholic, they stop drinking and everything changes for the better, but very slowly because this stage is difficult to overcome. And when a person passes through this stage, they begin to see how their children change, and they start to have an influence on their children. And the children begin to change. And the next stage is when parents and older relatives change. They too embark on a path of goodness and elevation. And so gradually, everything around a person becomes pure and beautiful. And when everything around a person has become pure, they no longer see bad people around them in life. One sees no deceit, no filth. This means that one is already worthy of a heavenly life right here on earth, and one will live a heavenly life here. This is what a heavenly life truly is. To see only good people around you, to have only good work, to have only good health, to have good relationships with your relatives, and to see good children. This heavenly life comes to a person right here, on earth. There was a woman named Queen Kunti who lived 5,000 years ago. She had 5 of the holiest sons on earth. There were no holier people on earth at that time. And she said to God, "Listen, free me from my attachment to my sons." Just as the Ganges flows here, striving only toward the sea, without being distracted by anyone else. So I too want to strive only toward you. Yet another test for women. Remember, do not try to imitate such people. This is impossible. If a person renounces all the earthly happiness they have received in this life, they enter a spiritual reality that cannot be described in words. I cannot tell you anything about this because I myself know nothing about it. But know that even if a person ends up in paradise, and this is in this reality, in the next life, they will still continue to develop as a person and engage in spiritual practice there. This person loses nothing. Therefore, a person who grows as an individual, works on themselves, never loses anything. And that is why I tell all of you that you all have a good fate. Because fate is not what is written in some astrological chart, but rather fate is what a person strives for and how they live. You see, there are people who are in degradation, and there are those who live like everyone else and change nothing in their lives. And there are those who grow and develop, thus becoming fortunate living beings. Know that the fortunate ones are very few, maybe 1% on earth, or perhaps even less. And that is why you don't meet many like-minded people, because there are very few people in general who want to grow and develop in this life. Most people simply live like everyone else. And some are in a state of degradation. Not that many either. Well, more, of course, than those who are progressing. So unfortunately, we have run out of time. Tomorrow we will talk about the signs of fate. There are different signs. I will tell you about how to recognize for yourself what is coming, how to overcome it, and everything else. Thank you. Thank you.